happens, anything happens wrong, I'm blaming it on Lola. Just saying that right now. Yeah, it would just be blamed on Lola. Okay, I believe that we're live and we're feeding out to the folks out there. Hopefully you guys can hear us and we're coming in loud and clear. If there's any audio issues or anything like that, this would be the time to let me know. And of course, everyone who's joining us live on Utreon knows that we're doing it so that we can actually hold guns. Because YouTube doesn't let us. We are not responsible enough as human beings to hold inanimate objects while we're alive, but we could do that on Utreon. So if you want to join us live, go over to Utreon, UTREON/ Who Moved My Freedom Podcast. That's the place to go, and then you can hang out with us there. Whether you're listening on audio, on iTunes, or whatever, you can go over and do that. It's going to be a fun show here tonight. I am going to kick everything off and then tell you about my guests. Let's do this.
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation. Lifestyles of the Locked and Loaded.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Franklin Armory. Franklin Armory provides 100% US-made firearms and awesome binary option triggers. Their focus and purpose is to provide freedom tools to all Americans, especially those in not-so-free states. So when you're in the market, please consider Franklin Armory. It's hot in the van, Lola. It's hot in the van. Okay, do something. You gotta I'm also blaming you for that, Lola. Okay, we are live. We are live. I hope you guys have your big girl panties on out there. Let's do the jazz hands. So, Jack and Pho, we do this thing called jazz hands. It goes like this. We are taking it back from the terrorists. There you go. It's like an icebreaker. There you go. Absolutely. This is episode 909 of the Who Moved My Freedom podcast. So that means we've got exactly 91 bottles of beer left on the wall before we get to 1,000 episodes.
Wow.
So, yeah. There you go. And my guests are Jack and Pho of the Pholosopher. There's Jack. There's Pho. There she goes. Boom. They got some high technology going on here tonight. So, absolutely. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you guys? How you guys doing?
Oh, we're great. Yesterday we were really hot too.
Yeah.
And I didn't blame Jack. It was just the unit.
You didn't blame him? You didn't blame him because it was hot?
Not this time.
Yeah, you should try that. I think it works. I think when you blame everything on other people.
Shame can work. It may breed resentment.
Yeah, it might make you feel better, but not necessarily.
Yeah. The text said that there was, something wrong with it outside, and it wasn't my fault. I felt a little relief there, knowing that I didn't do anything. But
oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, otherwise.
Yeah. It's hot. This is Florida, man. I mean, Yeah. I think we're both in Florida. We're both in Florida. Yeah. So,
that's right.
Man. Yeah.
Florida and women.
Yeah. What was that? Say that again.
Oh, we're Florida men and women.
Florida men and women. There you go. Florida man and Florida woman.
Women.
Yeah. Whoa mans.
Yeah, like Florida man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were like, how this. Do you remember when the congressman said a man and a woman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah, I thought that was a reference for a second.
Yeah, but it wasn't satire. It was serious.
Yeah, exactly. So tell the folks out there in my audience who may have never heard of you guys, like, who are you? What do you do? How did you start doing whatever it is you are and what you do?
Ooh, sure. Okay, I'll go first. So... You're gonna change it. Okay. So, I started back in 2015, and I made some posts. And, it was after I met Jack, and I started making my posts and posted pictures of myself, and I was like, yeah, these are my thoughts. And my first formats were, like, these really long-winded, like, formats, kind of like my explanation here, but that's okay. And so eventually, Jack helped me hone my skills. I learned from a lot of content creators online and looked at examples of memes, started making videos. And Recently, actually, the past, I would say since 2018, 2018, have started making music. And personally, I've always enjoyed hip hop music. It was something that helped me find solace through my childhood, you could say.
Okay. Oh, I noticed you got real grimy there just now.
Yeah, I know. Long stories
Mm-hmm.
to the 90s. And and it's always had a place in my heart. And so I started making music to try and convey the messages that I really care about, whether it's philosophy or guns, self-defense, speaking out against tyranny. So yeah, that's actually been my focus for some time, is just making content of various kinds, trying to convey the message of liberty and the importance of philosophy. So that's why I'm the philosopher. And the pho is because I'm Vietnamese and Chinese, and I grew up eating a lot of Vietnamese and Chinese food, one of which was pho, which is this like beef noodle soup, and it's really delicious. And it's like chicken noodle soup, but like for Vietnamese people, I guess. And it's delicious. And yeah, that's why I'm the philosopher, because I like philosophy and pho.
Okay, so yeah, it's interesting. So it looks like it's spelled PHO, but it's pronounced pho.
Yeah, like I mean, if you want to get really technical, without Vietnamese, I'm missing like a little squiggly thing above the O, and then it's like pho, and there's like a silent R at the end there. But I keep it simple. I say pho, like many words we know fondly. So the philosopher. So it's kind of funny. It sounds just like with an I.
Right. Yeah. I know exactly. It's kind of weird, but it's pronounced like, so if people are trying to spell it out, it's PHO. Yeah, it's PHO. That's how you're gonna find it. Faux law, and even the law part of it is also LO. I know this can get weird.
Yeah, it's easy. Some people call me Pho, like Pholosopher.
Right.
But it's totally...
I'm supposed to say philosopher then.
Yeah, it's it's weird because you speak English and you know how to read and understand English. So that and I did it too. It's funny, when I first made the name, I was like the Philosopher, and I did it for a while, and then I was like, wait a minute, what? It's pho. What am I doing?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I read it in English too, so no worry.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if one of your parents were like, "Well, that's not how you pronounce it." Damn it.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay. And then what about Jack? We got Jack. How did you get involved in this whole thing?
Sure.
Wow.
So for me, I've been doing stuff in the Liberty sphere for many years. I've actually been a lot of different things across my life. I've been an attorney for juvenile defense. I've been a state school teacher, which I have some regret about, but I have a lot of lessons from there. I've been a tutoring company owner, and I've been a producer. So in my producer roles, especially, that's where you see a lot of the work that you might see on the internet, from doing stuff with the Philosopher, or a page I have called The Honest Teacher, or different things that involve spreading a message of liberty. And so over the years, I've produced all different types of stuff, from educational videos, things we've worked on specifically with gun rights advocacy and educating people on common gun myths and things like that, and all the lies and manipulations that are out there. And in addition to that, just promoting, I would say, a kind of fundamentalist or absolutist view on those things. Just that the right to bear arms, human bear arms, is absolute, and that's a property right and applies to all property rights. And so, in those things, I also ended up doing a lot of other creative works too. So I have a comic book series called Voluntary, the comic series, and that's been going on for about 10 years now. And we actually are on Indiegogo right now, funding that. It's already hit 100% of goal, and we've already passed the stretch goal. So I've been, doing some stuff with that. And I'm also an author of a book called The Definitive Guide to Libertarian Voluntaryism, where I kind of put together the principles of liberty into a really concise format. It's got a pretty little cover here, but I try to keep it short but sweet so that people can get it. Any person can pretty much pick it up and kind of get a sense of what those values are, and of course how it ties to everything else that we do. So that's kind of a short summary of what I do, but it's everything that involves personal liberty and just helping people think outside the state, think outside of many of those structures, and outside of forcing kids to go into compulsory state schools and things like that, getting them to unschool. So there's just a lot that I do, and sometimes it's kind of overwhelming to really cover all those different topics.
Right. No, that's cool. So I know folks out there have some questions, but I'll get to those here. So if you guys can define yourself politically, not that it matters, but just so maybe people can figure it out there, where would you put yourself on that scale or spectrum or rainbow or whatever the hell people? Yeah.
All right, let's do the 4 quadrant.
Oh no! This before we go into 4 quadrants.
Does that one make sense to you, or do you want to use a different
chart?
one?
Yeah, whatever you want is fine.
Speak for you. I'll speak for Mick.
Okay.
All right.
What happens?
All right, you go ahead.
You want to go first? Okay.
Nah, you go ahead.
So, all right. So I'd say voluntarist is one label, and I could explain it too if people don't understand that. A small L libertarian might be a little bit more understandable, like more people have heard the word libertarian before, but they might have some hangups or misconceptions on it. But I often, think about it in terms of, voluntarism and libertarianism. Let's say those are probably the 2 most common labels that you can, think about here. So when it comes to those, what that means is that we just want to minimize the initiation of force against the and doing that through respecting consent and property rights. So we really value individual liberty, this idea of self-ownership, that each person should have the highest claim to their own bodies, and they should have that right over their bodies, that their body and their physical property rights shouldn't be subsumed to some, collective, seeming common good kind of thing. We really value that individual autonomy, and we just want people to have peace and prosperity through consensual relationships, because at the end of the day, that's what people really care about for themselves, is they don't want their consent violated. It's just not possible. If you want something to happen, that means, you consent to it, right? So at the end of the day, that's what we really care about. And that's what ties in, of course, to gun rights issues, because, of course, with guns, that's just a matter of self-defense and people choosing what it is they want to defend themselves with. The gun is inanimate, it doesn't go and kill people on its own, right? So each person is just responsible for their own actions. And with that in mind, everybody should be allowed to defend themselves, with whatever arms they choose, so long as they're not initiating force against others. So it's about what they do as an individual to harm others. So again, if you're not harming anybody, then there shouldn't be any restrictions on what you could own, especially with firearms.
We've got some questions coming in of whether or not you guys are 2A folks or, pro-gun and all that. Obviously, you're answering that, but, it's going to be, we're getting Jack and then we're going to get Pho here, but, yes, they are. If you check them out, you'll see they are. But go ahead. I'll let you guys answer that too. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, so we are, exactly, yeah. And then you have the shirt.
Oh,
let's see. Yeah, let's get a look at that. Is that the 2 of you? There you go.
You like this?
Yeah, I guess.
Very nice. Yeah.
And
you're wearing in that thing. You're wearing a Boogaloo shirt, Jack, and then.
Oh, you can say that because we're on Utreon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and look at that. You can hold it. Oh, look at those beautiful people right there. Beautiful human beings. And then it looks like you have an FPC shirt on. So I think.
Oh, you're right.
Ipso facto. Ipso facto. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, so you know all your rights all the time as FPC, and whenever Biden is like, oh, we're going to take your guns. We're going to take your handguns. I just hope whoever manages their Twitter is just is always like, fuck you, no.
Yeah.
It's just, like you were saying, Jack, in a more, eloquent way, you could say, is specifically it is about property rights. And that's where I fall too. I mean, there's many labels. You could say anarchist, libertarian, voluntarist, or capitalist, anarcho-capitalist. There's many different labels, and each kind of has a nuanced kind of explanation there. But my main focus is, so as a libertarian, it's about, focusing on property rights, this idea that you own your body and your property. And when it comes to the state, if a state is to exist at all, it should only be in the business of enforcing property rights. So I'm kind of focused on that politically in terms of that's how I envision a more peaceful transition, is that cultural change to focus on property rights instead of before just basically just outright dismantling of everything. So that's one. And then as a voluntarist, that focus is more about okay, well, what about human relationships? That's an area where, you can talk about government, relationship, and property, and that's one thing, right? And, I would say taxation is theft, for example. But as a voluntarist, the focus is really about human relationships and consent. There's a really big focus on consent and individual consent, and being able to say that, hey, you should be respected in what you want done with your own body, and you should not be compelled to do things that you don't really want to do. And it's having that kind of focus for me on those two things is what I think will really achieve peace amongst human society. So that's really my mission, you could say. And the means is philosophy and ethics, this idea that as a philosopher, you just value truth above all else, and you are focused on examining, understanding your biases, knowing yourself, knowing how your mind works, knowing why you think the ways you do, and being open to ideas and trying to re-examine your thoughts and why you think that way. So that I just think that that's important as a philosopher. So
that makes sense. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think if folks, for people who really want to know about you guys, and I hope there are folks, here that in my audience that do go discover what you guys are doing. If you go look at what they're doing, they're on YouTube. You guys are on Instagram. Where else are you on social media?
we're everywhere. So Facebook, YouTube, Odyssey /library, Instagram, Twitter, Steemit, EC/Hive.
Okay, wow.
Telegram. Oh, I ain't even.
Yeah, I know. He looks like he's just getting started. I'm like, oh goodness. Okay. Yeah, a lot of places.
Minds.
I'm on Minds. Minds is a good one.
Yeah, Minds is great.
They've
been around for a long time.
Yeah, I can help you if you got. Well, you don't need my help to get on Utreon. Utreon's a pretty open thing. They're not specifically pro-gun, but they are pro-gun. But it's not just like a gun thing. The guys who own and run Utreon are actually in Canada, but they do believe in what we're doing so far as being gun guys. And for example, they went out to the Iraq veteran event, and that's and they even communicate with us. Sometimes they're even here in the chat, so you can very easily go there, sign up. They'll pull all your stuff over from YouTube. You could go live there. Utreon means that they're kind of like YouTube and kind of like Patreon, so people can subscribe to you like Patreon, and at the same time it works like YouTube. So
awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then we could give you their contact info because they're easy to talk to and all that, and they're looking to get lots of different voices over there. So
cool.
So you're on all these different platforms, I was saying, and if people want to go check them out, I think very quickly you will see where these guys are coming from, and I think you'll also enjoy how they creatively how they speak their minds and put it out there. That's probably the best way I could describe it for you guys. So for example, you were talking about personal choice. I think you're against people being mandated to wear masks, right? Am I right on that or wrong?
No, you're right.
Definitely right.
Yeah, we made a whole song about it called Mask Order on you can find it on YouTube or Odyssey, and it's basically fuck the mask order and the New World Order, independent politicians.
Right. Yeah, I can see you guys. I can see you're really into you're really into hip hop. I could tell from how you put it out there. I mean, you deliver your words with conviction. I like it.
Yes. Oh, and there's different flavors of hip hop, right? So I would say I'm more like the underground 90s hip hop, hey, we slang dope and my brother's in prison and this is wrong and the drug war is wrong, and then you have Jack over here. What would you say, like Miami, like Uncle Luke?
Like, my rap hip hop background would be more like Two Live
Live Crew,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Well, I mean, I like a lot of stuff from 2000 rap and stuff like that, but we always stay current with culture and music. So like we're always listening to the most cutting edge stuff, whether it's off SoundCloud or whatever. Like SoundCloud, like so that kind of stuff. We're
in
definitely
general
steeped in it.
And in general, like you said, we love new music too, and I would say mostly around hip hop and rap, but we do like seeing some of the new you could say like chill hop and other trap flavors there are, like lo-fi, hip hop. Okay, I guess it's all flavors of trap.
And
we're getting trap now, metal trap. I'm like, okay, metal is finally bearable. Country trap.
Everything's gonna go under trap. Night Train, who's a big supporter of the channel, said, "Sorry, but hip hop is not music." You're wrong, Night Train. You're wrong.
Hip-hop
definitely music.
If you go to a country club, you're gonna hear country trap, and you can't tell me hip hop's not music, because even your own country lovers love trap music.
Oh, yeah, you can tell. Yeah, a lot of country music. But here's the thing: like, art is in the eye of the beholder, and I think also, music is art, and it's in the ear of the beholder. It's whether or not you perceive it to be. I definitely do. Some people don't. I mean, everyone. There's some kinds of music people like to listen to, and I'm like, are bagpipes really music? Yeah, they are, but they're kind of... Walther Arms has been making concealed carry handguns for over 90 years, starting with the PPK. Today, Walther is based in the good old US of A and still builds quality firearms like the PPQ and PDP for personal defense and competition. So when you're in the market, please consider Walther Arms. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Walther Arms. Yeah, I got hoisted by my own petard there. I didn't even keep track of that little timer down there. But yeah, I think without a doubt, hip-hop is music. We can just settle that for anyone. Night Train is saying hip-hop/rap at its essence is spoken word over a collage of beats and musical snippets taken from existing songs. I think that's kind of simplified.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a simplified...
Well, original hip-hop was scratching, so it was sampling. Like in the early 80s, you think about like the earliest form of rap, that there were samples from stuff in the 70s. They would sample, popular tracks, stuff like that, and then, they would loop it and start scratching and stuff like that. But, it's spoken word poetry, and it's put to sound. I mean, it's
music.
The main instrument is the voice.
Right.
The main instrument is the voice, but there are other instruments in it, and it uses all kinds of, like, hip-hop to me is a unique art form to America, like jazz. And I think that to me it's definitely music, and that's simplifying it to say that, because in some instances it is that, but not really all of it, and it's a thing that's constantly growing. And on top of that, it's probably the biggest form of music that exists on the face of the planet today, whether people like it or not. Yeah. I see Cruiseman says he's never been a rap fan either. There you go. Okay, whatever, Cruiseman.
Maybe you heard horrible rap, like, like, I don't know what it was. Maybe someone took like an audio from a podcast and then they put it over like a remix of
they just hate every time I talk about hip hop. They're trying to stop me from... They do this every single time I talk about hip hop. There's always going to be the hip hop haters. Huh?
Bring on more hip hop people.
Yeah.
Bring on your favorite like rappers.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite rappers today?
Who, me?
Yeah.
My favorite rappers today. Honestly, I like Pusha T. That's probably my favorite rapper right now. I would say Pusha T, but he's kind of like old school, Yeah, and there's some... I'm trying to think of what would be like the current rappers that all the young people know. See, I'm 50. Yeah, I'm 50. So I grew up I came to America and grew up here in the 80s in New York City, and I was really part of...
Wow. So
when I was in junior high school and high school here in America, I mean, people were actually breakdancing, and like that's how people settled fights and stuff like that, just like you see in some of those older movies, or they had rap battles and all that kind of stuff, and you know, yeah, I mean there was still gun stuff, but you know, it wasn't like, for example, at my school, it wasn't uncommon. You know, one of my friends was friends with LL Cool J, for example, so sometimes he would come up to the school. I grew up in Far Rockaway, which is Queens, so I mean.
Oh, so you're from Queens.
Yeah, I'm from Queens.
Oh, your dad's from Queens?
You didn't ever go to IS-53, did you?
Yes, I did. Brian Piccolo, I did.
Oh!
That's in Far Rockaway. That used to be a prison. I went there for like 6 months when I first came to America.
Yeah, my dad may have taught you.
Whoa.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is possible. That is possible.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, IS-53 was supposed to be a prison. There was literally no windows. I don't know if your dad ever told you that.
Oh, I've been there.
Oh, you've been there.
One of the first places that literally had,
Oh,
the actual like police officers and metal detectors and stuff put in there.
Was it a gun-free zone?
Oh yeah.
I guess it was supposed to be. It was one of the first places. When I went there, they didn't have that. You know, I went there in when did I start high school? I started high school in 1984, so I went there in 1983. But it was right.
Like the movie.
Huh? Say that again.
84, like the movie in the book.
She's just saying something irrelevant. Continue.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you know, it was right next to the precinct. I think that's the 19th precinct or something like that in Far Rockaway that it was right next to, and it was built right. It was built right behind it, and it was meant to be a prison. So it didn't have any windows or anything like that. And it was a very depressing building to be in, to be honest with you. And then I went to Far Rockaway High School, which is really not that far from there, and that was one of the first schools, as well as you're saying, to have metal detectors. It was the first school to have a daycare center in the school for the girls that got pregnant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
How much public that really emphasized how much public school is a prison. Like that wasn't even imaginary bars there. Those are real
bars. That was literally a prison.
Yeah.
That was a prison.
It was a prison.
Yeah, they built it to be a prison. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So wait, were you take phys ed or a health science class when you're in 6th grade there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
I have a yearbook and everything. I have a yearbook and all that stuff.
Look at this
without saying names.
Yeah.
Yes. When I get a chance, I'll dig that up and I'll send. So your dad's probably in the yearbook, right?
Oh, he'd be in the yearbook.
Yeah. There you go. That's weird. I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Like an olive skin kind of guy with brown eyes. I don't know.
Wasn't he super tan and
more
olive?
tan, fit at kind of athletic build? I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know if you remember.
I do remember phys ed. I'm trying to remember if that was in junior high school or high school, because I remember we had a phys ed teacher that was married to like a supermodel.
Yeah, my mom was a supermodel.
Then I do know your dad.
Oh my God,
yeah. Yeah, he was actually pretty cool.
Actually,
yeah, this is
we're gonna tell him that Father's Day is coming up on Sunday,
episode.
right?
So.
Yeah, I always tell Lola about that. Like I remember having a teacher that his wife was literally like a supermodel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she was Miss New York, Miss USA.
Yeah.
She model, she did movies and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I always tell Lola too. When I went to a high school, I had like a substitute teacher that he was in movies. I can't remember his name, but he was like really built. He did karate and martial arts and stuff like that. And I've seen him in sci-fi movies and things, especially when I was younger. I cannot remember his name now. Very good looking, like 80s dude with the long hair and everything like that. But he was an actor, and then he would he would do substitute teaching.
Wow. What is this like?
Because I mean, obviously in New York, acting was big. Obviously, New York's a big hub for acting, stuff like that. So having that is a real experience. Substitute teaching while trying out for roles. I mean, that's really.
Yeah, and that particular guy was really cool, man. He was just a really cool dude. Of course, no one messed with him, because he would kick your ass. I mean, he was ripped. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that after this.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to see that yearbook. That's
crazy. You're in Florida. Maybe you have to
so now
out.
I mean, I'm originally from New York, so now
Yeah, there were people wanting to know what part of Florida you guys are in. I don't think we're going to get into specifics here and all that kind of stuff, but these guys are from Florida.
We're around from a lot of parts of Florida. You never know where you're going to see us.
Right, exactly.
All the way south, all the way north.
Yeah,
Central,
undisclosed location.
coast, West Coast, we go around.
Yeah. No, that was interesting. I remember when I came to before living here in America, I lived in Nigeria, in West Africa. And when I came to go to school here and they put me into IS 53, they would take me around to all the classes and have me talk to these kids because they never saw a kid that lived in Africa, in a country in Africa, right? And it was just really crazy because I had to talk to them, and the first question would be like, "Oh, did you live in a mud hut? Did you swing from vines?" And meanwhile, like, Nigeria is an oil wealthy country. It's part of OPEC, and at that time when I first came here, the naira, which is their currency, was worth $2. So I mean, yeah, there was a lot of modern buildings and all that kind of stuff. My dad was a professor at Polytechnic University in Kaduna, which is in the Muslim part of Nigeria. And yeah, man, there was a lot of stuff there that kids here had never seen, but they were asking me if I lived. Of course, there's mud huts, and I mean, it's West Africa, so you had all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I would also go to super malls at that time. There were just these massive malls with whatever kind of stuff that you would find here. So it was real interesting and crazy. But yeah, I remember everything from going to that crazy school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
okay, you have many stories.
I know.
You're
Yeah.
have
Here's
to
the
take
stories.
you and Lola to dinner.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And hear all your stories. And
One day ask your dad if he remembers a kid who, a black kid that had a British accent and used to get into fights all the time.
Oh, you had a British accent?
Yes, I lived in England before Nigeria. I was born in Guyana, and my parents kind of like moved around before we wound up here. So I left Guyana when I was 5 years old, and we went to live in England. So yeah, I kind of had a British accent until I graduated high school.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well,
that means you can turn it on.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't force myself to do it really, but I can sometimes. But it comes back when I hang around a lot of British people, or if I'm looking at British movies or something, because it's almost like a different language. If I'm looking at a movie with Lola, she can't understand half of what people are saying if I'm looking at a British movie.
Start talking British accents until he starts talking British, and then like from that on. Hello.
Yeah. Like one of my nephews was here from England a long time ago, and I was making fun of him because he said, "Mummy, can I have a glass of water?" Like that. So I could do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, Mummy.
Have you been back to the UK since that time? Or?
The last time I was in England was in '92.
Okay.
So that's been a long time. Yeah, I prefer, I just really haven't, I've traveled outside of America since I came to live here. I've been to Honduras and Mexico and places like that, but I enjoy traveling around America. I think, there's a lot to see in America. There's a lot of different countries inside of this beautiful country that, that we have here, so.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Little Italy's, little Chinatowns, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Everything. Jewish towns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to go to places like everywhere there's a little Chinatown, even though that's kind of, I mean, people could be from Vietnam, they could be from anywhere, right? Yeah, so, they could be Thai, they could be Filipino, they could be this thing, they could be that thing, but there's always a Chinatown everywhere.
Yeah. And also good old American. Like, I used to go to Old Country Buffet. Not everyone knows what that is, but that's it's like a buffet where you can get like fried chicken, and I would get fried chicken with green beans and a cup of noodle soup, and it was so good every time. And, and you can find that all across America too.
Absolutely. So Cruiseman says, Hank, say the word Camaro. So there you go, Camaro. They want me to say Camaro, something like that. That's what you say.
Oh, what's that?
What's Camaro? It's like like
like a Toyota. Wait, never mind.
The only how you say it in American, I guess, is Camaro. I don't know. I say Camaro.
Yeah, Camaro.
It's a car.
Camaro? Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Chevy Camaro.
Camaro.
All right,
Well, how do you say it, Jack? How do you say it? Let's say it, Jack.
I say Camaro.
Okay, there you go.
Again, I can be wrong
too.
because I've never actually.
But I have an
fact-checked.
American accent.
I've never.
I was
Yeah.
born and raised in the States, so I just have that, you know.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Florida, Pho, or like different parts of America?
Yeah, so not New York and not
Okay.
Florida, you know. And I didn't get the cool accent. I just I was Pacific Northwest, so you know I had a very proper, polite accent. You know, I'm very polite. I'm like wave everybody. I'm like, hey, you know, it's green for me, but go on, get in front. You know, when you're driving. But yeah, so that's me, Pacific West.
Okay. All right. That's cool. That's cool. You know, that's a big swath of America, but you know, that's all right. Okay. So what about Jack? Where did you grow up in New York?
Yeah, so I was originally from New York, and that's, you know, apparently more intimately than I ever was expecting.
Wow.
As you know, my family was from there,
Hank.
and
Wow.
they were working there, and you know, they've been there for a while. So a lot of my family was, you know, from the New York area. But then when they retired, then they decided, like everybody from New York, to go to Florida. So
Yeah, exactly.
Like everyone.
Are they the kind of people who move to Florida to ruin it, or to make it better?
Fortunately, yeah, thankfully, to make it better, they never, at a bare minimum, never would vote Democrat, at least. So
I came to make it better. I mean, hopefully, and you know, so yeah, I'm from Seattle. You know, like that Chinatown,
Right.
the great town of Seattle. So yeah.
Yeah, someone has a joke here, Pho. Brian Quick says, if someone is imitating Pho, is it called a faux? Get it? Like a faux pas, I guess a faux.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you don't know this, my audience is a lot like me, very immature.
We have an audience too.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Is that? I was like, what is that? Is that a bunch of turkeys or something? That just what the hell?
Our friends. We have 3 friends over.
We have a live audience, right? Everybody, all right, hands up.
Yeah, we've all seen a lot of talk shows.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. So I don't even have any idea where we were now. I don't know if we explained like who the hell you guys are yet.
We did.
Kind of, sort of.
And we learned that you're a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker. Yeah.
Oh, you're from Queens.
I got your New York right here.
And you like jokes, and his father loves jokes, and you have connection to his dad.
If your dad is who I'm thinking about, he was really cool.
I'm glad, because it could have been cool.
There may have been another
you
teacher
could
with
have
a
been violently
supermodel
assaulted.
wife.
I don't know.
Around that
Yeah,
time.
maybe. I don't know. There weren't a lot of gym teachers with a supermodel wife. No.
No.
But I vividly remember this because I think your dad used to show the kids like photo shoots or magazines and stuff like that your mom was in, right?
I'm sure he would have. Yeah. I mean, he was known for like being a really funny guy go-getter. Like he would do like the groups in the gymnasium with like the big bouncy balls and the whistle. Like he'd blow the whistle to like have everybody do stuff like do clap stuff like da 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 da, like and have everybody go and listen for stuff. I don't know if you remember that kind of thing, but
yeah. Like I said, I went there for the end of whatever junior high school is. Yeah. You know, and then we moved on to Far Rockaway High School, or I moved on to Far Rockaway High School. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna pull out I have my IS-53 yearbook.
Yeah, we're gonna look.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look at it. Your dad is not gonna see me in there. You know, he's not gonna see me in there because there was another dude with my same exact name. So basically, I did the yearbook pictures, but there was another dude with my exact same name. So, Hank Stranger's not my real name. And so, you know, that's my hip hop name. So I've had it for a long time because I've produced hip hop music and all that. If you ever look at anything on any of my YouTube channels and hear music, that's me creating that music.
Okay.
We're gonna
have to check it out.
studio session this rate.
Yeah, go to studio session.
Yeah, I can't play instruments or anything like that, but I can produce. I had like an independent label when we lived in New Jersey. I had a studio built in our garage, and I did stuff with some of the lesser-known members of the Outsiders. If you ever heard of the Outsiders,
I was more Outsiders fan.
Yeah, the Outsiders. The Outsiders is kind of oh man, I'm trying to remember some of the groups that that the Outsiders are part of. Well, Eminem, before he became really famous, Eminem was actually in the Outsiders. But there's also a lot of very famous. I'm trying to remember. The Fugees were down with the Outsiders as well. Lauryn Hill was down with the Outsiders. So yeah,
a lot of music from New York.
Yeah. Yeah, so some of the lesser known members I did some stuff with, as well as the most famous member, like solid member of the Outsiders that you would know if you looked it up, is Pace One. He's like a battle rapper, and like his younger brother was one of my like producers as well, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, we made an album, all that kind of stuff.
Yourself, were you doing vocals?
I did some stuff. Like, you know, we put out an album, I did some stuff in there or whatever. I've always been the creative type, so I'll write things and all that, but I actually I'm probably one of the oldest, or the first gun guy, or maybe the oldest one, I don't know, to do like a rap type of song that was pro gun, and I think it's still on my YouTube channel, Hank Strange / YouTube. It's called the 10 crack commandments.
Yes.
Yeah, it's based off of that.
Biggie Smalls, right?
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Biggie Smalls, yeah, and it's called the 10 Gun Commandments or something like that. I have to look it up and see what we call
it.
it.
So you did a remix? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. There's no. You don't actually see me, like, it's not as well produced as you guys stuff, but my vocals are there, and then we put pictures and stuff like that over it. So
I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Yeah. We're getting ready to take a quick break here, and we're gonna come right back in a few seconds. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like High Point Firearms and Full Forge Gear, bags and gear for everyday life. Did you know High Point is an American family-owned and operated company located in Ohio with over 30 years of manufacturing experience? High Point is proud to be the home of the working man's gun and your source for affordable handguns and carbines with a lifetime warranty. So when you're in the market, please consider High Point. Okay, so we're back here. We're actually in the Gorn section. A couple of things from the audience. Someone is still trolling me on Night Train says, Hank, how many times do I have to explain to you that hip hop is not music? Yeah, you can keep doing it. You can keep doing it, Night Train. It's officially music. It's the most successful form of music that exists on the face of planet Earth. And probably very soon is going to be the only kind of music.
I would say, like, you know, this idea of, like, just because you're not singing doesn't mean that it's not music. You know, it's very specific, you know, and it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, I gave the example of, like, I've seen people literally just take an audio of someone actually talking and then putting it on some track. Like, now that's more what you're talking about, like the spoken poetry. But if you look at, like, for example, a more free form style of rap, which is like underground, you know, just live battle raps where people are just like trying to remember the lines that they, you know, thought of over time. And they just do it to the beat. You know, that's music to me. You have to follow a rhythm. That's understanding the rhythm, going with it, you know, and there's usually change ups. You know, it's not just monotonous. Like, rap is really awesome and creative, and there's many forms. So, you know, idea of like what is music or not. If you're just saying like you have to be singing like like
yeah, I mean, first of all, there's
like,
lots of
music where you don't sing. You know, there's no talking or anybody at all. So is that not music? Because there's just one violin, sad violin music. You know, like that's music to me.
Yeah, there's some very popular songs that are just a cappella.
Right, or if you break it down to like, okay, earliest instruments. Okay, you just have a drum, you have a pot or a pan, like you just have whatever you have around. That's music. It's about rhythm. It's about a beat. So that's ultimately the
If hip hop is not music, then jazz is not music either. And I don't think anyone could argue that jazz is not music. I mean, come on. And that's a very uniquely American music form as well. But it's the whole, if we're talking about philosophy, right? It's the whole thing. I remember one time talking to an artist that I knew that was, he was classically trained, so he had college degrees and all kinds of stuff. He was trained in like cadavers, so he knew, human forms. He could paint, he could draw with a pencil, he could do photography, he could do sculpture, he could do all kinds of things. And I asked him about, like, what is art? And he said, art is whatever an artist creates and calls it art. And an artist is anyone who says they're an artist. It has nothing to do with your education or anything like that. And I think music falls into that same category. It's just, a person, of course, is free to say that it's not, but then people are free to say that it is.
Right.
It's just one of those kinds of things, right?
Yeah. You would need an objective definition in the first place to even say what is or isn't. And it's, obviously, at least the bare bones level of like what makes music in terms of, frequency and having some type of, pattern or rhyme scheme.
Pattern.
I mean, that matches rap, that matches jazz. It's
like, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things, and of course, it's just a subjective thing to people. But look, I don't like K-pop, but it's music.
Yeah, but it's music, right?
Yeah, and you guys are all free out there to say whatever kind of music that you think is music, huh?
For the longest time, I thought screamo. I'm like, what is this? It's just like, yeah. Exactly. What are you saying? I don't even know what you're saying. Like,
right? Yeah. Yeah, and do you even have to know, like, there's kinds of hip-hop music I don't like. Like now we've got a lot of mumble rap and all that kind of stuff, and some of it I guess I do like, most of it not really. But, that doesn't matter. Huh?
A lot of the latest hip-hop music I've seen seems to have a lot of, like, childish tones. Like, there's a lot of remixes of childhood songs, like... There's one called like Simon Says, that game. And there's just this emphasis on like baby voices, like Playboy Cardi, Lil Uzi Vert, like they have very babyish voices, you could say, like childish or young. They're like like
or Panda was a crazy thing, but I like Panda though. I like that. Yeah.
Oh.
From Designer, Designer, the song from Designer, Panda, where he goes, Panda, 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 Panda. You never heard that?
No,
I wonder that.
Yeah, I don't. Whenever this goes to YouTube, I don't want to get in trouble over it. But if you look that up, the song Designer, or no, the artist is called Designer, and the song's called Panda. I think it's called Panda. Yeah, I think it's Panda. I could be wrong with what it is. Or he just says that in that whole thing. I love that thing. Is it childish? Yes.
Yeah.
But what isn't? I mean,
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Most people.
Well, someone would say Ted Nugent. Someone would say that there were times in American history when people said rock and roll was not music. Or people who would say like Ted Nugent is not a musician and that's not music and the songs are childish, calling about what is it, wham bang sweet poontang? Oh, is that a song? How is that different? It's not different.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I like Ted Nugent. I think he's incredibly creative.
Some people don't like Chinese or Vietnamese music. Like if you listen to what I like some songs that I heard growing up, Vietnamese and Chinese, and like I played it around Jack, and he's like, what's this? He's not gonna suddenly be like, oh yeah, that's my jam, that's my vibe. Like, it's cool. It's like,
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, there's a lot of music like that.
Yeah. Right? There's vibe. And it's fun, too, to see, like, different countries are kind of stuck in different eras of music with, I would say, America always leading the way, like, in terms of music, culturally, right? Like, what you're seeing in terms of K-pop, that's just, like, 90s America's pop.
Yeah, that's all it is, yeah.
And you had that with Japanese people before. You had Japanese pop, and you also had like Hong Kong pop with Chinese people.
Yeah.
They're like those Hong Kong and like you know the 80s and 90s too. Like they were trying music. So
and some of that stuff I liked. Yeah. The other day, Lola was listening to K-pop and she didn't even know it, but she was enjoying it, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're listening to K-pop right now."
I watch and I'm like, you know, their dances are good. You know, some of those boy girl bands are good at dancing, and they're in sync, and then you know, like the band in sync.
I think, I agree. I think popular music is a lot of times the most, like right now, K-pop is probably, it's probably the most popular thing currently, right? K-pop is probably high up on the popularity list. I know it's not necessarily hip-hop, although I hear those dudes rapping sometimes.
I mean, they're pretty big, definitely. Sure. I mean, I think like a lot of music with, if you want to talk about international, 88 Rising, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but they're kind of a Southeast Asian culture mixed group that they produce all different types of artists, but especially Southeast Asian artists. And they have a lot of rap artists. They have pop there as well. But
they have like Chinese, Vietnamese rappers.
Yeah, that's like Joji.
Rich Brian is one.
Them.
He's Indonesian, and he was just a kid that was homeschooled, and he often would go on the internet and look up hip hop music, kind of like what I did. And he got really into the culture that way, and now he makes music with 88 Rising and is produced by them. But yeah, they have a variety of artists. They like hip hop a lot. That's a big part of their focus too. But in terms of popularity, I don't know. How would you look that up in terms of?
I think of just sheer numbers. Like I would look at like someone's song, and then how that's doing in various countries around the world in terms of like number of like distribution listens and stuff like that.
It really depends on where you're looking, but
I mean, I think like Post Malone was definitely a huge international hit around the world. You know, like White Iverson, stuff like that. Really, if it's getting mainstream American play plus international, you're usually, top of the top.
Yeah. Listen, along with, to me, what I believe, when I talk about freedom, I think you've got the freedom to, to ignore things if you want to, or say that, that's basically what we're talking about here. Now, Lola's saying, tell us about the I Did Not Consent video. And I'll invite everyone to go see it. I'm going to see if I can actually pull it up here on my phone without crashing everything, which I'm trying not to do.
That sounds good. We can play this.
Well, I could definitely show it here if you want to. This is the video, I think, right here, right?
Yeah, that's our most recent video.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna. Oh, okay, it's gonna run an ad or something, so we probably need to give it a chance to.
Thanks for the monetization. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
yes,
Hank.
exactly. I'll just wait for it. I don't know if I'm actually gonna be able to skip through the ad here. I'm gonna try to.
And watch through the ad.
It's like a 4-hour ad of like.
Well, also my phone is like really, the internet off the phone right now because we're using most of the internet to do what we're doing. It's gonna be super slow, super slow. Oh, there's an ad for Wawa playing on there.
Oh wow! Cool.
Thanks,
there
Wawa.
You go, Florida Wawa.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're and now there's nothing because it's taken a long time to pull up. But tell us about it. When it pulls up, I'll play it here for folks.
Sure. Yeah, and if you can play it there too, we can also play it directly here.
Oh, you can? Yeah. So go ahead. If you can do that, go ahead. This is what it looks like a little bit here. But if you guys want to pull it up, that's gonna be cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to. Because there's two options: either I can share my screen directly, or I can play the song directly through my system. So
and with me, the audio's not coming in. But yeah, these guys are rocking out right here.
Yeah,
you guys made a nice video.
Thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of production into it, and there was a lot of editing, and we got lucky too because we got some good discounts from kind of a couple of fortunate circumstances, errors and on the ends, but we were able to snag pretty good deals for the production, fortunately. So
we had our our trusty background actor here, Josiah Freeman.
Yeah,
Shot.
yeah, he was good.
No, it was good. No, it was great, and I love the song. I mean, it's a song that I hope is, I mean, there is some lines that are more specific to this era we're in, like around the 2020s. But in general, the focus is about this idea that you didn't consent to all these things that are being done to us today, like, and all of the basically the goal is to try and like summarize all of the tyrannical things that are being done to us today that most people just accept, whether it's going through the TSA and being felt up and taking off your shoes and having them go through all your stuff, which you don't do for anything but the TSA. You don't even do that to get on a boat on an international cruise.
Yeah.
So it's a song that just trying to encapsulate, look, I didn't consent to all these things, and if we don't like rise up together and stand up for our body and property rights, like it's going to be taken away, because there are people in this world that actively want to take over our lives, all our property. And have you heard of anything like the Great Reset, the thing that was pretty much kicked off in 2020, like a plan that was at least put into motion in 2020 with all the lockdowns and shutdowns and forced vaccinations and all the socialism and even more central planning that arose, right? Like more people were like, oh, suddenly I get a big welfare check from the government, like whatever, stimulus check. So it's this idea of trying to wake people up to these people who want you to literally, like they say, own nothing and think that they can control your whole life. They'll own everything, and you'll just live in a pod. You'll eat bugs. Meat will be like an occasional thing. And this is all, an actual goal that these certain people have. I call them Malthusians, who are in power. Like people who do have this tendency to see other humans as inferior to them, and therefore they think they themselves are more superior, and as humans are more entitled to owning the resources of the world. So these are the same kinds of people who are like, oh, humans are causing climate change, and humans are like a cancer on this world, and carbon is really bad, the thing that humans breathe out, and animals and all this. So it's really like trying to get people to realize that all in one go, of like, wake up, there's all these things that you're part of that you really didn't consent to at the end of the day. There's a fly.
I'm absolutely with you. I mean, maybe just to bring some of that, make it relative to the folks who are listening to this. You're talking about including gun control, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I think probably all of this started way before 9/11, but definitely since then there were a lot of laws these guys created and put out there, some that we don't even realize. I've heard on Joe Rogan, I heard Snowden talking about this, that basically these guys just eviscerated the Constitution and people just don't realize it, but we're seeing it every day. It's like, death of 1,000 paper cuts, right?
Right. The Patriot Act and the NDAA for certain were, upending many Fourth Amendment protections and having special secret FISA courts where, where someone's labeled a belligerent or a combatant, they could just immediately be taken away and have no due process. Definitely, there's those issues.
And they're just slowly every day, man, they're trying to. I don't know if codify is the right word, but they're just trying to layer laws on top of that do the same things over and over and over again. I mean, that's what red flag laws are about. I was in the barbershop today talking about that. A lot of folks here in Gainesville, where I live, don't realize that these red flag laws are coming. They don't realize, one, it already exists in Florida, and that's already atrocious that Florida has that. It's against the Constitution. It's against Florida Constitution, for that matter. And I was telling guys in the barbershop, do you realize this is what could happen? They're like, no, there's no way. It's like, yes, people could just say, oh, this guy, what he said to me, I think it's threatening. I think he's got guns. You need to go take his guns from him, kind of a thing. And they were like, man, there's no way. And then they were Googling it, and they was like, oh shit, how's this happening? It's been happening, bro.
Yeah.
It happened to
exactly.
in Broward County. There was a guy who was debating some people online, and he had posted a picture of his AR build, and the people who he was debating decided to go after him and like claim that he was threatening him because he posted a picture of his AR build. And of course, Broward police are terrible, so they arrest him. They take his stuff. He has to go to court. It costs him a bunch of money. The judge is like, yeah, this is ridiculous. This is not a threat. But he still had to go through that process, get his guns back. He had to spend all his time and money.
Right, his guns were taken away. He was
disarmed, and he had no chance to defend himself
process.
beforehand. He didn't have a hearing. It was done ex parte, so he wasn't even there for the decision to take his guns from another judge.
Yep.
So it's pretty evil.
No
what
due
red flag are.
process.
Yeah.
No right of due process.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And we think, that's what they brought up. They were like, wait a second. We've got due process. I was like, well, not with that, you don't.
Yeah.
Not with that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's using language. I mean, that's part of the idea of why I really focus on philosophy, is because, like, we're even having this debate about, like, what is music, right?
Mhm.
Like, philosophy is this idea of, like, you should first define your terms, because we're trying to communicate, right? And there is the assumption that there is some truth, but we just don't know exactly what it is, and that there's a process for determining what the truth is, or rather validating that at least what you're asserting the truth to be seems to be correct at this time, based on your evidence, right? Based on you trying to reproduce a scenario over and over. So to me, that's like one of the most important things when fighting against these people is language and philosophy. Is often, as you see, they have the use of specific words that try to paint gun owners as across the board, broad stroke, as these, people who are about to like be terrorists at any time, that are just prone to violence.
Mhm.
When it's actually like the majority of gun owners, like, what is it, 99%?
99.
Mhm.
99.999 percent of gun owners in America don't commit homicide. They don't commit crimes with their guns. Like, it's literally just there sitting ready in case they want to defend themselves or need to.
Yeah.
Or target practice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
or-
if you think about it, with the guns outnumber people in America. So if the things on their own were dangerous and killing us, we'll all be dead.
Yeah.
Like, Hank,
Many
you'd be
times
dead
over.
right now. You have too many, like, you have one too many guns, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that could just go off at any time, because
And it's not the case. It is the opposite. Yeah, that's exactly the opposite of the case. We're running. We've got like maybe 10 seconds here. So what we're gonna continue this conversation. No, we're going to take a break, but we're gonna be right back, and maybe we'll see a little bit of that video. With Armslist, you can shop the extensive list of local and nationwide firearms classified, now with more confidence because of their built-in firewall. For only $6.99 a month for personal use, or $30 a month for business vendors. So when you're in the market, please consider Armslist. We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of great companies like Armslist. And I definitely would suggest to you folks out there to go listen to those of you who like hip hop. For the people who don't like hip hop, you could still go check it out. Maybe you could remix it, put something else behind it or whatever. But
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or you guys could do a remix at some point. Just put some violins in there, or Yeah, you never know. It might sound pretty good. Okay, so you got cut off here because of the break, but what were you saying?
Philosophy, red flag laws.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
So we were talking about
And language.
Yeah, we were talking about I did not consent and what you guys were what you're saying. I don't think you're trying to say it. I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's a pretty good video. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think I have
some.
Now too. So
Speaking of red flag laws, we even mentioned Duncan Lemp, who in Maryland, like, this whole idea that the police had. They're like, oh yeah, we can just go and just treat him like he's some terrorist just because of like his views online. Specifically similar to our views, which is literally, hey, individuals should be respected in their body and property rights, right? And everyone should be left alone so long as they're respecting others in that same exact manner ethically, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, he was somebody that was targeted by the Maryland police, and purely political and red flag laws was used to just, you know, be like, oh, it's okay, you know, we were just acting in fear of our life, even though they're the ones that went onto his property.
Right, exactly. You know, it's a weird thing. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a weird thing about what you're saying, you know, your body, your choice. And some people might be like, oh, what does that mean? Well, you know, the other side of this equation believes in that, let's say when it comes to abortion. Right? They believe that, but nothing else. And this is the idea of philosophy. You were talking about the truth, and I believe the truth is always in flux from us as human beings, because we're looking at the world from our perspectives. So there is a truth, right? There's like, if you step in front of a moving train, it's going to kill you.
Right.
Right.
Things that you say,
Usually.
there's things outside of you
Like
will
miraculously, you might say.
that will correct.
Well, you
things
can't
under-
will yourself and say, hey, because I decide that I identify as air. Therefore,
Right.
when I step in front of this train, you know, I will just
Right.
go around it. That sounds awesome, but you know, the truth of physics is that's not how that works. You know, if that's
Right.
moving at speed, especially, you're dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also this idea of consistency, you know, in philosophy. Like, if you say that 2 + 2 is 4 and you make some logical rule about that, like if you look at mathematics, it's all about logic and principles, you know, and the conclusions that you make are based on logical formulas that have been proven to be true in all cases, right? Like, that's part of this idea of consistency. And so when we look at people who say, like, okay, you gave a great example of like people who are like, okay, my body, my choice when it comes to abortion. But these same people are like, no, we got to disarm everybody, and it's not right for you to have the right to bear arms without, you know, asking the government for permission. Like, you should have to like wait for 3 or 4 months or however long and pay another fee to get your right, you know, pay for your
Yeah.
right.
Imagine if we did that when it comes. Now I know there's folks out there that are against abortion, and believe it or not, I am also. But at the same time, I realize there's reasons why women out there. Why am I even saying people? Women, because that's who's going to have abortions. That's
Yeah.
that's science.
Men
She
can't
knows.
get pregnant.
This is science. So, you know, those folks on the other side always say, oh, you guys don't believe in science. And it's weird to say the other side, because I think we all believe a lot of different things. But yeah,
Yeah,
you know, if you
I
think
agree.
about it, you know, I was looking it up. In 2020, there were 960,000 abortions in America.
a lot.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's stuff that's in the news. I mean, easy to find. I'm not making that up. I mean, so what if folks who don't believe in that go, hey, you know what? We have to do something about this. Like you're saying, we're going to make people, there's going to be a waiting period. You can't do it until you're this age. You know, we're going to ban it outright. Because 960,000 human lives that people self-abort other human beings who are biologically related to them. You know, if that's not bad, then whatever amount of people have been killed by firearms is not bad either. I'm not making a statement, you know, about whether or not they're bad. I'm just saying, like, this is logic, right? Like, one of these things can't just live in the world on its own, and then this other one lives over here.
Well, when it comes to ethics, exactly. The point of ethics is this idea that you start with universal truth. So if you say, like, for example, rape is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone would agree. Rape is.
Oh,
is
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I totally agree.
Right. If anyone was like, well, if that person just so happens to be a police officer and, you know, they feel like, I don't know, a fear of their life, like they're gonna not, you know, preserve their genetic race. Okay, well, they can rape you, you know, like people just be like, that's insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, my goal is to help people see that consistency further when it comes to any action. I think at this time, at this point in humanity, most people, especially in America, understand those concepts of basic consent and body and property rights, right?
Mhm.
Most people understand, like, hey, you can't just take my stuff, or hey, you can't just take it without asking my permission. Hey, you can't just rape me, you can't touch me, you can't assault me.
Yeah, you can't
right?
enslave me.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are like that, and most people are like, yeah, I'm against slavery, I'm glad it ended. But what most people don't get, in my opinion, is that the remaining slavery that we see is exists when it comes to the state. Like, technically, we are all tax slaves if you think about the fact that you cannot say tomorrow, whenever you actually that you're just not going to pay your 30, 40%, 50% taxation rate, including all the sales taxes and DMV fees, registration fees, licenses, and all these other hidden taxation fees there are. You can't do that without being threatened to be thrown in prison or have like a lien against your house or your property. There's a lot of coercive aspects when it comes to that, as opposed to any other private company, right? You call them up and you're like, hey, I don't like your service anymore, I'm going to go. And then usually they're like, oh, how can we keep you to stay? Like, it's this idea where when it comes to this relationship with government or the state, that's where most people aren't able to apply this understanding that murder is wrong, theft is wrong, rape is wrong. They have this idea that, in my opinion, is programmed into us. We were talking about public school earlier, coincidentally, Jack's dad, but just the idea of public school in itself, like the ones you went to more physically, was actually designed to be a physical prison, in the sense that most people know. But in practice, most public schools are prisons. If you think of how like children aren't allowed to leave, how most of them are, most parents are compelled to send their kids there, right? And there's a lot of like paperwork that has to be done, and different states across the United States have different laws against how you're allowed to just not send your kids to a government school. So that's where I think this programming of fear was implemented. You see it across the media today. The programming still exists every single day of programming for fear, uncertainty, and doubt of the future. Like, oh, we got to ban guns because, oh my gosh, some random person could just do this. So let's just like take away everyone's rights because we have some fear.
Yeah, I would definitely say that schools are mostly for indoctrination. A long time ago that used to be colleges, but it's everything now. And for a long time, I think it's been schools, right? It's not to bring everyone up to a basic education. I mean, they're basically just passing kids no matter what through the schools and telling them stuff in schools like, yes, 1 + 1 can be 3.
Right. The history of compulsory public school actually goes back to Prussian militarism, and it was the idea that there was too many people who were fleeing on the battlefield. The soldiers were, basically getting scared and leaving, and they needed to indoctrinate the youth so that they would want to actually die in service of the country. And so the compulsory schooling was instituted there, and it was later actually adopted in America and in Europe, firstly to get rid of native cultures. There's, if you look into first generations, or stolen generations, where native children, whether it's in Australia or Canada or United States, they were forcibly wrested from their families and put into schools.
Yeah. To homogenize everyone, right? Everyone has the same culture, language, everything, right? Okay.
So it was a weaponized tool, and then in terms of the changes in compulsory school, like shifting toward factory work, just getting people to be able to follow orders to the tune of a bell every 45 minutes, have everything regimented by blocks. So this whole idea of the compulsory system was simply to break down individual spirit, to have the individual have their wants, interests, and needs subsumed to the dictates of what is actually state central planning. And in any other case, you would think that we're obvious. Like if you were 20 years old or 30 years old and you said, hey, guess what? For the next 13 years, you're going to have to do whatever the government says. If they say to learn this topic, you have to learn this topic. They're going to give you a label called a grade, and that grade's going to be a socioeconomic stigma that sticks with you for years, and it's going to be used to judge you whether you're worthy to have certain classes, go on field trips, or be worthy of certain employment. It's it's going to last there with you. I mean, you'd be like, that's crazy. Like you can't essentially plan my life. That's socialism. But people don't realize that Compulsory
Do that for
schooling is
children.
itself a tenet of one of Karl Marx's 10 planks of state socialism, Lenin communism, is compulsory schooling. And a lot of people don't know that it's a brainwashing tool that is meant to erase individual identity, kill creativity, kill self-drive, and ultimately let rise to the top who are the most successful, those who are both able to conform to what is told of them because they're able to obey things. You know, even if you know the information, if you don't perform for the test, you don't do your homework, well, you don't get a good grade, right? You have to actually perform, and you have to have the ability.
Right.
And if you don't have the ability, let's just say your home life's bad, you have a family that's divorced, you're poor, you know, you're hungry, the food's not as good, well, you're at a disadvantage, and you're being judged against people just on one metric, their age, right? It's just this 1 year metric, and everybody's biology is different, their growth's different, their family situation is different, but everybody's still great at the same, taking the same test. So it's really just letting rise to the top those who are most able to conform, and those are the ones who are rewarded in the end with accolades, and then, you know, the good jobs and the good college experience, this or that.
Yeah, it seems logical if, for example, it's like, well, everyone's going to learn English, and, you know, you're in America, you should learn English, which I generally agree with. Or everyone's going to be patriotic because you're going to learn about American history, etc. It seems like, okay, that's cool. But yes, if you look at, you know, maybe that was at one time. But if you look at it now, what we're all complaining about, that's what's happening to our kids in school, right? Is that now that is being used for, like, we could see exactly what's happening with it. They're trying to program our kids in, you know, how they can look at their own gender, how they can look at their politics, you know, what racism is, all these kinds of things. And now we're all mad at it, where maybe at one point in life you're like, oh, that's cool because they're teaching everyone to speak English or everyone to be patriotic towards America. So, you know, they're teaching people about the Constitution. But at the end of the day, I agree with you, you know, even though it might sound uncomfortable to people, that yes, this thing is being used against us. It's being used to program kids, and we constantly have to fight back against it. And it's a lot like gun control in America. Not 100%, but a big part of gun control in America was the worry about what these freed slaves are going to do if they can have guns. And there's people who are like, oh, it's okay because I'm kind of worried about them, you know, having guns. And the people are okay with it. Well, now it's going for everyone. And now there's a lot of us up in arms about it, right?
Well, the thing with the gun stuff too, you know, that's something that ties into schools as well. I mean, you saw it firsthand, because I could talk about it with a little bit more specificity because we've both been to IS-53, right? You're disarmed as a student. You're constantly surveilled. You're constantly monitored. You have no privacy. They're scanning your stuff. They're going through your bags. You know, you have no right to, you know, to any autonomy. And it's literally acclimating children to a police state. And that's what schools are today. Schools are the police state. And if an adult had to be in that environment, it'd be absolutely clear to them that this is a complete Orwellian dystopia. No adult would be like, yeah, I'm going to have cameras in every hall watching me. I have to, like, raise my hand to go to the bathroom, you know, and take care of my bodily functions. I have to be told minute by minute, hour by hour what I do, and I have to be shamed and labeled and threatened if I, you know, don't conform. You would literally go insane. And actually, that is real. Like these kids in school, because I've been a public school teacher as well, and I've done both private. Charter and public school teaching and substitute teaching. It is absolutely driving these kids insane because they are so controlled and their schedules are so taken up, and they're given horrible food. And then when they're not conforming, they're just told, oh, maybe you have ADHD.
Or they're
and you're
given
medicated.
drugs.
Right, and then they're SSRIs.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids, they're being more and more sedentary because they just need to prep for testing. So it's like everything's about taking the test and get more funding, and they don't have time to go out. They don't have time for any physical activity. They're kept from any meaningful, like, skills, you know, whether it's like doing the wood shop or learning how to shoot guns. Like, even guns used to be a thing in school that you would actually have, like, target club and stuff like that. All that's gone. It's all gun-free, you know, school zones, and these kids are being raised to become complete serfs of a totalitarian government. And that is
and of the
terrifying.
New World Order, of all the cultural Marxist, you know, Malthusian goals
when
for
you
the
strip
world,
away all
the
the
climate change, gun control.
They are molding kids to become complete slaves of the state.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I have a friend of mine that you know, he's a white guy, and his wife is Puerto Rican, and so they have kids, right? And one of his daughters in her group of friends, you know, she's a teenager. So anyway, for whatever reason, her group of friends were talking about Black Lives Matter, and she was like, "Listen, I don't believe in Black Lives Matter. I think it's total nonsense." they literally got in trouble. They called up the parents and they're like, "You're raising your kids to be racist because they don't believe in Black Lives Matter." And he's like, "What are you talking? What?"
Right.
Yeah, what is happening? And you know, his daughter had like a very logical reason why she didn't believe in them, but they were like, "No, if you don't believe in Black Lives Matter, you are racist." You know, now this is the kind of insanity that you're getting from schools. That I remember when my kids were younger and Obama was running for president, they were so programming kids in school. Like my kids asked me who I was going to vote for if I was going to vote for Obama, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to vote for him." And my kids started crying, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, why are you crying about that? That's me making a decision. When you become an adult and you start voting, you vote for whoever you want to. But from my point of view, I'm not voting for this guy. But my kids were so programmed by the school that they were like, "Go tell your parents they have to do this. If they don't do this, it's the end of the world." Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's real. It is such a threat, and that's why I get so angry and so vehemently excitable about it, because it is the greatest threat that everyone can possibly face is having their kids being raised by these leftist central planners who want nothing more than to have their kids completely confused about the nature of themselves, to not be able to figure out truth, to be completely dependent on authority, and to have no self-drive, no motivation, to just wait for someone else to tell them what to do, and to wait on whatever type of welfarism or this or that, or little golden.
It's insanity. Shooting Gallery Annie, shout out to him. He's in the chat. He said, "Since they are so controlled that the schools do not have the time to stop things like bullying, I left public school because my school system would not do anything to stop bullying," which a lot of that's happening. And then in the problems that we have from like what happened in this school in Uvalde, even though that's the place that we put our most precious assets, our children, they won't harden the schools. They won't harden it. And the people who won't harden the schools, everywhere that they go to, where they live, where they go to work, is hardened. They have security. They have protection.
Right.
It's weird, right?
Well, to me,
like
it's
the
intentional.
police department.
Yeah.
They have guards everywhere.
Yeah, these people want victims. They want the martyrs. They want to show, oh, look, see these kids. It's your fault when you take your guns. The whole thing is largely an orchestration.
Kept out,
right. It's a political orchestration. These people, the laws and the orders, they're being done to amplify the violence against young people and to exaggerate, to use it as a political tool. It's absolutely
I'm just hitting that thing because we have like a minute, but you can keep going. Sorry, that's my little magical warning. I probably forgot to tell you guys.
No, you're good. And I would say, especially in that situation, I like to remind people too, like, as I was just talking about with schools being prisons, I mean, some people are quick to say, oh, arm the teacher, this or that. But I want to remind them, hey, you're just saying to arm the same people who were just teaching your kid about critical race theory and telling them, be confused with their gender. I'm like, arming the slave masters is not the solution. The solution is get your kids out of these concentration camps. These are leftist indoctrination centers.
The institutions of slavery.
Right. Save your kids, save your life, save the next generation. Unschooling is the way. Get your kids out of there, because if you don't, they are just sitting ducks. They're literally waiting there for some person who might even be rightfully crazy from his treatment at school, but he's going to be used by the FBI to go in there. The FBI is going to coach him along to go do a mass shooting. It's happened time.
We're taking a quick break. We're going to come right back with this here in a second.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of a DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization like TUSC Crypto. TUSC cryptocurrency is a firearm-friendly e-commerce option for online payment transactions, secured on the blockchain. So when you're in the crypto market, please consider TUSC, TUSC.
Okay, so listen, what would you say to the folks out there who say, okay, I like what you're saying here, what's the alternative? So what's the alternative in you guys' minds?
Sure. So a big part of my work, and this is one of the things I do, is this page called The Honest Teacher, because of my experience being a juvenile defense attorney. I've been a former school teacher for a high school, big public high school, a K-8 middle school. I've been a substitute teacher. I own a tutoring company. I have a wide set of experiences with the educational systems or indoctrinational systems and what's going on in there. And what I tell people is that the core issue is that adults are trying to centrally plan the lives of kids, and think that, if this kid doesn't meet this certain benchmark this time, they're just going to be behind. And instead of trying to measure up against everybody else, and instead of trying to be like, so fearful about what it is they're going to know, the actual thing is to help them is to realize kids are natural learners. Kids actually already absorb information. They're just, little sponges as they're growing up. They learn how to talk, they learn how to walk on their own, they learn how to eat just naturally interacting with parents. And the key for adults is to act as facilitators of this learning instead of performance judges and trying to label them, be like, I need to benchmark you and give you a quiz and a letter grade and stuff like that. And this thing called unschooling, what I promote, which is, that kind of a mindset of moving out of that compulsory curriculum, compulsory, forced mindset, is something that exists in many forms. There's homeschooling versions of it. There's actually self-directed learning centers where kids go with other kids in a nice, facility. It's like a house or something like that. And it's got lots of different areas like music rooms and outdoor players, stuff like that. And they learn with the adults acting as facilitators for their own self-directed learning goals. So these kids actually self-directed learning, and they have a natural incentive to do so. And it actually matches kids' abilities, as everybody's biology is different. They grow up at different rates to learn how to read and write at the time they're most interested and engaged. And what makes it so impactful is that when a young person is actually engaged, like they want to read or they want to write for a purpose, that sticks much longer than when it's forced. And you're like, oh, I got to read Jane Eyre again, right? If it was a Harry Potter book, they would read the whole series, right? And I saw this time and again as a teacher when I worked with remedial students as well. The kids who were in remedial classes themselves were doing all kinds of things like teaching themselves foreign languages and learning puzzles and games and doing Rubik's cubes. Like
yeah, you're just pulling a string on learning as a kid, and you just keep like, oh, I like this, I'll just keep going down that path.
Yeah,
right.
It's so natural.
And what happens in those environments is the adults then bring in the other skills, or the helpful skills. Again, it's not forced, it's facilitated within the context of an interest. And so kids who are even like playing card games or board games like that, they learn numeracy skills, whether it's playing Monopoly or playing a type of online game. They do of that because they just want to be able to engage in the culture. And when kids are engaged with tools of the culture, in other words, stuff that's real and relevant, stuff that people are using in technology and whatever is available, then kids flourish. And there's an amazing actual TED talk about this called "Kids Can Teach Themselves." It's on YouTube. You can Google it. Kids Can Teach Themselves. And it's a story about a guy who put up in a poor neighborhood, I believe in India, a computer terminal, and poor kids who were literally on the street would go to the computer terminal and play around and learn, and the kids would teach each other. And before you knew it, these kids were learning all this stuff from the internet, and were actually teaching each other and learning new skills, including math skills and reading skills, and they were actually helping each other out to learn just because the tool was there alone. So it's a pretty powerful story that shows us. But this is not new. This is not untested. Like the Sudbury School in Framingham, Massachusetts, been around since the late 60s. There's tons of unschooling centers around the United States. And I do a lot to help parents leave the compulsory schooling paradigm and get into something, whether it's a homeschool, a co-op, unschooling or self-directed learning center, whatever it is. I try to get parents, to get out of there and help them find ways to actually achieve that with their kids.
Yeah, I mean, this may sound very radical to some people. I'm gonna put something from Shooting Gallery Annie, or I'm gonna voice his comment here, and I'm gonna put some of my own thoughts into it. He says, "I did not learn to read until I was in 7th grade, and to this day, I learned more from visual learning than reading something to retain it. To retain it in school. Now, do not realize that it seems that they're just teaching to the test." So which I think is exactly what's happening. And then also to tell you guys, like, I remember when I learned how to read, because I learned how to read at 5 years old. And, my parents were teachers, and often I did that with the same thing with my kids. I sent them to school, but I would teach them things that I wanted them to know. Like I taught them how to read, etc. But one of the ways I learned how to, I wanted to read, right? I wanted to read all these books. There were a lot of books around me.
I did too.
Yeah, and then like I remember my dad bought me this this ABC book, and it was just like big pictures from A, and there was an apple, all the way to Z, and there was a zebra, and I started going through that, and then I started reading books, and I would go to my parents would always tell me, go to the dictionary, go to a thesaurus, go look this thing up, and I would read a book. Like I remember one of the very first books I read was The Hobbit, which is a massive book. And I didn't even understand everything, but I would read it, look things up, or whatever, and then I would read it again, and then I would read it again. But I was in. Say, what was that, Pho?
Oh, then you're able to comprehend more.
Well, every time I found something and I didn't know what it was, like I deep dived into it. It was like I think it's what Jack is saying. It was like for me, it was like a string. And I would pull on that string, and it would just keep coming up with really cool things. And because these things were around me, I would keep looking or asking or just researching it. And today like you said, we've got computers and people can do that same thing. It's just like our parents said. My mom would do a thing. If I said a word, if I said expialidocious, she would go, okay, what does it mean? Right? And then she would say, okay, let's go to the dictionary and figure it out. So yeah, I agree with you. We need to restructure a lot of what we're doing. And I think, with this, there's a lot of things about this pandemic, this whole COVID thing, that I do not agree with. But one of the things I was saying that is we had this opportunity in front of us to restructure a lot of the ways that things are done in America and around the world for that matter, and we could have made things better. But once again, the politicians and the folks out there that are attempting to enslave us don't care about that. They're not trying to fix problems. They want to create more problems so that they have a job for themselves. Yeah, go ahead.
Want to take over, exactly. Their goals are different, I'm sure you want a world of prosperity. You want a world of growth where they're like entrepreneurs everywhere, whatever, people are happy, there's a up and up, there's a path forward, right? It's not like, oh my God, no matter how hard I try, things get more and more expensive every year, that's not what we want. But these people, they don't want that either for themselves. They don't want economic depression for themselves, but they do want it for others, because the reason they do that is because then it gives them an opportunity to seize on those who are now suddenly unable to afford their homes, kicked out, right? They can't afford their mortgages or whatever, property taxes go up. Those are the ones that then seize up and buy all this property. And slowly they can just kind of take over that way through this kind of hidden, means, insidious kind of means here. So.
Yeah, I know that, what was the name of, oh my God, I can't believe his name is coming out of my brain right now. What's the name of the rapper that said that slavery is mental and then he got in trouble? Now, here's the thing. Slavery is a physical thing. You have to reinforce, huh?
I don't know. Kanye West?
Kanye. I don't know why that went out of my brain. Yeah, because we're talking about a whole bunch of stuff here. But Kanye West said that slavery was mental, and everyone's like, "What? That's not mental." Yes, it is mental and it is physical. And oftentimes the smallest part of it is physical. The reinforcement of it is definitely a physical thing, right? The biggest part of it is mental, and this is the reason why human beings now in America, in the world, are constantly being kept in a state of confusion.
Right.
Fear. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's your mind. It's your mind. If you don't, if all of this stuff exists to you, like if I'm telling people that they're layering red flag laws on top of red flag laws, and people are like, what are you talking about? It's very easy for you to figure this out. You don't have to look at the news. I think it's the reason why the news is so crazy, so that you don't look at it. And then even if you look at it, you don't, like, even if I don't look at any kind of established news. I don't even have like cable TV or anything like that. But let's say I look at Fox News. Even if I look at them, I don't believe what they say. And I don't listen to them. I still go look it up myself, research it, formulate my own ideas and go down different. I'm still doing what I've always done in my whole life with anything that I do. But if you're so mentally suppressed and confused, and someone's giving you everything, and they're like, hey, we'll give you a house, we'll give you a car, we'll give you food, we'll do all this stuff for you. Yes, you are a slave. You're one of two things, and you could decide what you are. You're either a slave or you're a pet. And those are pretty much the same things in my mind. Yeah.
Don't fret about that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is a lot of what we see. Like when you hear Joy Behar saying that if black people get guns, then they'll make it illegal. This is where she's coming from. This is where she's coming from, because she sees black people as pets. This is what they see people of any color or any kind of ethnicity or whatever, right? And this is she's the very thing that she's pretending she's fighting against is exactly what she is.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's always a ruse. It's always been a ruse. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my little rant. I don't know. I probably Lois and okay.
I agree.
I do want to add to all this about unschooling. You know, another part of the goal, I think, with public schooling, and this is the case in every country you look at, whether it's China, North Korea, UK, whatever, like Prussia, like you mentioned, you know, all of these school systems are meant to get the new generations, the new kids, the new people of the world to be more aligned to the state, to the government, whatever country they just so happen to be born in, as opposed to their own family, for example. And when you have more like of a focus and emphasis on family, like a culture where, you know, family comes first, this idea of like trying to work things out with your family and talk things through and try to connect again, that's something that is very destroyed when it comes to the whole public schooling system, especially when it's compulsory, as it is pretty much for all governments around the world. Like most of them have mandatory attendance for kids. And what that does is now these kids are forming attachments and relationships to their teachers, to basically government administrators, and maybe fellow peers who likely are probably just as dysfunctional, if not more, right? There's
100% agree, yeah.
dysfunction.
Man, you are truly a philosopher, Pho.
That's not a lot past you could say in my life. But yeah, and that's kind of one of the biggest things I saw is this huge divide amongst family. And then now suddenly people are being instilled with values, not to be like, hey, I want to like see my mom and dad grow old and hold a bunch of my kids and have a bunch of grandkids around and pass on values of liberty and love and connection and peace to my kids, right? There's kind of more a drive to be like, okay, I'm going to be like, you know, I'm a woman. I'm going to be like a, you know, girl boss or whatever. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to do something great for the state, or, you know, I'm going to join the military and sacrifice myself for the state or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, not really realizing that you're more just a pawn in a politician's game to gain more money and resources, you know, whatever it is. So that's kind of the main thing is this idea of family. So in the same token of answering the question of like, what can we do when it comes to unschooling? I think family is huge. And family is not just who you're blood related to. Family is people that you share values with, that basically you trust that they love you and that they want to connect with you at the end of the day. And therefore, when you have that sort of foundation with them in a relationship, any sort of conflicts that arise, you know, you don't need to resort to violence, that the other person's not going to resort to violence, that you have enough respect and love for each other to say, hey, I want to talk to you about it. You know, this thing you said hurt my feelings, whatever, you know, and then you can talk about it and work things through. And that kind of approach, I think, is really where it starts. Like having your own intimate ability at home with your own family, whether, again, it's blood relatives or not, like maybe you're adopted, or maybe you you know, get married and you start your own family, you know.
And it doesn't mean that you even have to agree, but you know, you just have to have these. One of the things that's interesting to me, they changed how long parents are responsible for their kids, right? So medical bills and all that, they changed it. I think it's somewhere around 25. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
For you saying the Obama extended healthcare coverage?
Yeah, it's 24. Okay. The weird thing about that is, so at 18, so my kids both are in college. At 18, I can't see my kids' medical records anymore unless they sign a piece of paper saying I can see it, which I told both of my kids, you don't have to sign that if you don't want to, but I don't have to do shit either. So they signed it, right? But the weird thing that's happening is there's actually a lot of college kids who decide, so you might have a boy, he decides, hey, I don't want to be a boy anymore, I want to be a girl, and they start taking medications and doing things to transition, and the parents have no knowledge of this. Okay? But the parents are paying for it. Okay, so this is like a weird thing. Like, why do we have things like that going on? I'm not saying it's the only example, but it's one of the examples of what's happening here. I think in that situation, your parents should know this is what you're thinking about. They should be able to say, nope, we don't support this. If you still want to do it, hey, You know, you want to do this thing, go ahead and do this, but why are we going to pay for it? There should be these conversations, but instead, parents are getting railroaded into, yeah, your kid's 18, you can't see their medical records, but you are responsible for it. You have to pay the bills.
Yeah, I think it ties back to like, the schooling situation and everything else that the government does. It's, the whole process is a form of parental alienation through trauma bonding. So, essentially what's happening is that these, kids are being brought away from their parents for long periods of time, for years on end. They're being subjected to lots of different forms of abuse in terms of bullying, sometimes sexual harassment from teachers and other students. They're being alienated, and their parents are stressed out working, and it's tough for them to, see them as it is. And so the teachers and the other government workers are essentially child predators at a bare minimum emotionally. They're predating on the unmet needs of children in the schooling environment. Because remember, the schooling environment is not itself set up to be like, oh, let's help parents be better parents, or, let's help children better connect to their parents. Rather, everything is about,
or let's mediate.
Right. How do we connect kids to the missions and objectives of those in the school for their purposes, whether it's passing tests for grades or, psychological political control, because many teachers have been exposed to this point, and it's much greater than the exposure show with, James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, but many teachers are there for political reasons. They're there because they're intentionally trying to brainwash kids to their specific ideology. So you have this whole, system where they're trying to push more and more cradle to grave dependence on the state. And in that process of weaponizing that relationship of children against parents, which ties to that insurance issue thing. And this is something that's not new in terms of form and function. This happened, of course, in a certain, time period in Germany, with their youth. And it's happened under Mao, having young people rise up against their parents under, Mao's communism and against landlords there. So weaponizing the youth against the older generation, that is parents and grandparents, and like that, is a common tactic of totalitarian regimes attempting to reestablish, or not reestablish, but as you could say, revise the culture or refashion it in their...
it's one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Right.
By the way, Lola's saying in Florida, it's 26 years old in Florida, you can still have them on your insurance, but you don't have access to records due to HIPAA.
Wow, to 26, okay.
Yeah. Lola works in healthcare, so I'm going to take her word for it. But
Yeah, right, because I remember it being that, and then I heard it got raised, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
26.
Yeah. That was a good point about tyranny there. That's you could say it's a red flag about tyranny, the division of the family, right?
Yeah, right. I see what you did there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because ultimately, like, even us, like, we're not even saying, like, if your parents are statist, disown them. No, we're literally saying use nonviolent communication to try, and philosophy to try to talk to your parents, your loved ones, your friends, and really talk to them about these views in a way where you're not shaming them, you're not labeling them, denigrating them just for simply still, thinking taxation, for example, is necessary, quote unquote, right? If your focus is truly connection, like, that's what we advocate for, is bringing families together. But I do still think it is like a red flag, like on that note of, tyranny, where if your whole focus is to drive division from your own parents and try to make parents seem like, they're insane and they don't have your best interest, that flag of someone who's trying to control your children, not really enlighten, everybody.
Yeah, how can someone else, regardless, there's a lot of things I don't agree with my kids on, right? How can someone else have, a better, whatever you want to call it, right, in mind for my kids than me? I mean, I'm the one that had them and went through everything it takes, in order to have them. Yeah. We're taking a quick break here, and we're going to come right back, and we're going to continue on this.
The Who Moved My Freedom podcast is made possible by our partners at 2A Commerce. Veteran-owned and with over 20 years' experience, 2A Commerce is the leader in custom e-commerce and web application development in the shooting sports industry.
Clients include major brands such as Guard Dog Body Armor, Sylvan Arms, AccuFire Technologies, The Tactical Games, Warrior Knife Company, and yours truly, Hank Strange. Visit 2A Commerce and support this show by supporting them. Once again, visit the number 2acommerce.com. Yeah. By the way, we've got Shelly Fungus out there. Lola, I don't know, I'm not sure if Lola's still here. I think she is. Yeah, Shelly Fungus says she didn't. Oh no, that's a he. Shelly Fungus is a dude. Sorry, my bad. Yeah,
Shelly Fungus.
Yeah, Shelly Fungus said that he did not get his poster from Liberty Suppressor, so I'm not sure what happened there. We'll look into it. And we'll get it worked out. Yeah, I think we're talking. We've got some good stuff going on here. Actually, we haven't even gotten into guns, but I think we're having.
Should we do a little show?
Yeah, let's show some guns. What do you guys have over there? What kind of stuff do you guys, what kind of guns are you guys into?
Well,
I see. PS90. Ba-boom. A bullpup. You're speaking my love language.
This is probably my favorite rifle, for sure. Really comfortable. Mm-hmm. So, you got PS90 over here. 5.56.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a 5.56 guy, Jack, and Pho is that's that's 5.7.
5.7. Yeah, 5.7.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this 5.56.
This
the Daniel.
The Daniel.
Defense.
Okay. Daniel Defense, very nice.
Make sure it's loaded.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're good. I trust you guys. You're in your own home. Did you guys see that thing of that congressman who was like? Do you remember? There was something. There was a thing on the news where a congressman was in his home and he had a handgun and he cleared it and everything. But he was showing. He's like taking it down and doing stuff. And then there's this liberal Democrat that comes in and goes, "I hope that thing's not loaded." And he's like, "This is my damn house. I can do whatever I want." I thought that was so funny, man. But yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wonder if it was loaded then.
No, I don't think it was. I was looking at it. I was pretty sure it wasn't loaded from just the things that he was doing. Yeah. At the end, look, I believe in safety, but that's your own personal responsibility.
It's true.
Yeah.
It definitely matters.
Yeah.
The four rules matter.
They do. It matters because you're putting roadblocks in the way of you doing something wrong, and you have to be the person that goes, "Hey, I don't want to accidentally discharge here, hurt myself, hurt someone in my family, or damage my own property," and you have to be the person to be responsible for that. It's kind of like YouTube. No, go ahead. I like Pho's posing there. Love it. Yeah. It's kind of like when I actually had the conversation with YouTube when they decided they were going to make a policy where people couldn't go live and hold firearms. I'm one of the people that they spoke to. They made an appointment with me. They called me up. It was about 3 lawyers on the phone as well as 2 other representatives of YouTube.
That's crazy.
And they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna have this policy where you can't hold firearms." I was like, "Why? What is that about?" "Well, we don't, because we don't want people to go live and hurt themselves or hurt other people. So this is the policy that we're gonna have." And I was like, "And you're gonna impose that on me that I'm I've been doing this since 2013. I've been making videos on YouTube. I'm an FFL. I mean, I don't think I have to be all those things, but I was like, I think at this point I've proven that I'm a responsible person, you know." And they're like, "Yeah, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna save the world." Yeah.
When did they put the policy in?
It's been going on for at least 2 years, if not longer than that. Could be.
Wow.
And for about a year, we actually went on YouTube and we didn't handle firearms. But what happened is someone might accidentally, because I said to them, "How are you guys even going to know?" Because they said I could run in pictures or video. And I was like, "How are you guys going to know? How's the bot going to know what I'm doing?" And they were like, "Oh, no, we're going to have people watching you."
What?
And yeah, so, and I know they did, because they said that they noticed that I was going, the reason why they spoke to me, they spoke to some of the really big gun YouTubers, and then they spoke to me, and they said, "Well, we noticed you go live a lot, and you actually handle firearms."
Right.
So we're going to have someone watching you. And I believe it because someone accidentally just showed a firearm and like they hit that button. And even one time they hit the button on us because someone showed a stock, not a firearm.
Turned off your stream? You mean?
No, with that particular incident, they didn't turn it off. Afterwards, they deleted it.
Oh,
wow.
And when we said, why did you delete it? They said, well, because you were holding a firearm in there. So someone came, in that case, I think someone came and looked at it later and said, so they were doing several things, but it also happened that we were on, someone basically got up to show how they were carrying their gun, and I like immediately went away from it, and someone there just hit the button and kicked it out. So,
wow.
That's absolutely.
That's why you're on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes, that's why we did it. We did it for a little while. We try to but it's really boring to not, I think it's cool to just, show people guns. These are gun folks out there. They want to see guns, every now and then you show them guns, I mean, it's,
and I love, I love also when you show guns, just reiterating the safety,
Can they distinguish if it's like a prop? Like, what if you use like a fake gun or a fake gun?
Yeah, because we've done
this
that
is not
many
real.
times.
Yeah, we would do that all the time. We would have fake guns. We would go, this is not really a gun. Look, it's got the orange thing here, and it would be fine. So I started buying a bunch of toy guns, and I would just hold toy guns in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was weird. It was really a weird kind of thing because no, they don't care about. I don't want to hurt myself or anyone. Why would I even, And how do I fall into the category of what you're trying to stop? By the way, they haven't stopped anything. People still go live on social media and do lots of bad things.
Right.
But I don't know when it was ever a pro Second Amendment YouTuber that did that because it never happened.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but this was their stupid policy. But it's just activist corporations and all that. Attempting to control people and what they think.
Definitely, and I think it's a culture war. It's certain. Maybe it's customers of YouTube or whatever. They could be like complaining and be like, "I don't want this content on this site," and they're suddenly tasked with like having to deal with, okay, these many customers versus these many customers do this, and needing to choose, and make a political decision. Like you said, it's been politicized, definitely, YouTube and all the social media platforms. And because, you saw, congressional hearings with Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey of Twitter and Facebook, putting all this pressure of being like, hey, basically, if you don't start, quote, controlling for misinformation, which is, again, we're talking about philosophy in terms, right? Like what they're really trying to do in reality is censorship.
Yeah, because what was misinformation? I mean, misinformation was the New York Post, a newspaper that's a bit, how the hell long has New York Post been around? A lot longer than me on this planet.
Yeah.
And because the New York Post was talking about the Hunter Biden laptop and all that, they got kicked off of social media platforms.
Right.
A newspaper, a legit newspaper.
And what they're covering is a real story.
It was a real story.
Stuff that was so suppressed. All the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop.
Son of vice president, and political crony.
Potential president to be
Ukraine.
His son. Being a crony in Ukraine.
Yeah, information that you want to know in real time, they suppressed it, and then later on, we're like, oh yeah, by the way, that was real. That was real. And
this idea that maybe you shouldn't take the COVID vaccine if you're pregnant, that's misinformation, guys. Okay, so it's clearly just this idea of those in power. They've gotten in control of these big corporations, these social media companies. Board of directors can change, like YouTube and all these companies, you can have different people in power fluctuating. So it may have gotten to the case that this time, you have people coming in, whether it's new millennials or these new indoctrinated generations getting into power positions of leadership there, and now they're making these decisions like, oh, can't use show guns or whatever, oh, but we're going to do Pride Month and LGBTQ plus S21 whatever it is now. It's clearly a political agenda now. It's no longer about providing a service. It's about using an existing power structure such as a big social media platform like Twitter or Facebook to indoctrinate and propagandize the world.
Yeah,
so now that's a very explicit goal of propaganda.
Yeah,
and true misinformation.
Yeah, I can't tell you how. I mean, definitely, I'm shadow banned on Instagram and even YouTube. My main channel on YouTube is shadow banned. But
Yeah.
I've gotten so many strikes or things deleted and all that because they're like, well, you're trying to sell firearms. Well, so what? So other people can sell makeup or sell any other thing, but because I'm not personally trying to sell firearms, right? I might share a deal like, oh yeah, these guys making this Sig P320, you know, they've got a sale going on here, or you can get the parts from here or whatever. Why is that a problem? This is literally something covered under the Second Amendment to the Constitution, and I can't do it, but someone else could talk about any other. You know, it's not a policy that goes to anyone trying to sell anything. Because if they made that policy, YouTube would wither away and disappear.
Yeah.
You know?
That's target.
It's nothing illegal, but so it's purely political.
Yeah, exactly. Someone mentioned here, I think it was Cruiseman, said that one time they pulled our stream while we were live because we were. Do you remember when Trump talked about shithole countries?
Yes.
Yes. So we were doing a podcast and we were talking about that, and I'm from a third world country, so I had an opinion about him. Well, yes, that's one of the places. But I had a specific opinion about the word shithole countries and what it means and all that, and other people had it, and we were just having like a discussion on that, right? And they literally pulled that. They literally pulled that thing and gave me a strike for that. And then I think later on they used that to delete my whole channel. But the reason why I got 3 strikes is because YouTube decided, like how you have that PS90. I collect bullpups, and they decided to go after bullpups. So any videos that were out there with bullpups in it, they were actually giving people strikes. I know that doesn't make any sense.
They don't want comfy firearms.
Yeah, they're like, how dare you
They're
be
like
comfortable?
AR-15 comfortable for a small 5-foot Asian woman.
That sounds like a title to a video. Is an AR-15. When you guys are always welcome to come shoot here with us. I have my own range here on my property.
Nice.
That's awesome. We're
now.
coming right now. We're getting a 5-star pizza in Gainesville.
We get 5-star pizza.
Come on over. But yeah, we'll make that video. Is an AR-15 a good fit for a small Asian woman? We will make that.
Yes. Versus a bullpup. We gotta do that.
Exactly.
Versus a bullpup.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever shot full auto?
Yes.
No.
I still have not. No.
No one's talking to you, Jack. We all want to know about Pho. No, I'm just kidding. Jack is like, yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Story of his life.
Story of my life. Like,
no, I'm just kidding. Jack immediately, and Pho's like, no, I haven't. Why? How come Jack has done it and you haven't?
Well, he's been a Florida man more than me, and you were into guns for a lot, like since you were a kid, like used to.
I mean, I was into guns as a kid, but I didn't get to shoot a fire until I was 19.
But you like the idea of like how it worked.
I had BB
and stuff
guns.
Like that.
You know, I warmed up to guns.
Yeah, I mean, all I had in Washington was like, you know, like the fake revolver with like the pop cap. It's like a basically like a firework.
Yeah.
Oh
like
yeah,
snap caps kind of thing. Yeah.
Snap caps. Yeah, cap gun. There you go.
Yeah, cap guns. Yeah. Those. Remember those? Those are illegal now. You can't even have the. And back in the days, they used to be made of metal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they were cool though.
Yeah, they were so awesome.
But hey, you know, I learned how it works.
Strip the red tape, the ones that like have the roll of tape, and you like scratch it with and burn yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
When we were kids and we lived in England, you know, my mom let us walk to school, and we would get money to buy like candy and stuff like that. And so my older brother convinced me that we should pool all our candy money and buy those caps, right? Because that was like a little bit of black, like gunpowder or something.
Right.
Yeah. So we stockpiled a whole bunch of those, and then we took apart something. I think it was like a light bulb or something like that. We took it apart, and we basically on our bed made a bomb and blew up the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and my mother, like, she would come in and beat us, and then get tired. And then go get some rest, and then come back and beat us some more. And then and then my dad would come home and she would explain what happened. She would get mad and beat us again, and then like for weeks every time she thought about, because we literally blew up the bed. It was on fire. It was so insane, man. It was,
You got a lot of try.
yeah.
She
I
was-
got.
Flip the bed. I'm gonna blow up your butt.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I was so mad at my brother for convincing me to, like, I mean, and then think about all the candy I didn't eat.
Did it get you into guns though? At least, I mean.
Oh, it was awesome. Oh yeah. I mean, I've loved guns since.
There it
Yeah.
is. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
It got me into all kinds of that. I was doing that way before people had tannerite. We were blowing up stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that's what my brother, like, for 4th of July, he'd always wrap a bunch of those little, like, bottle rocket fireworks. Like, it'd fly out. So him and his friends would attach it, and they'd, like, put a bunch, duct tape it, and put in a log. And
Right.
just the log.
What is wrong with What is wrong with us?
Playing with fire
I
is
don't know if you
fun.
can see,
I
but
guess.
I have like 33 stitches.
Ooh.
Let me see. I might have to cover my face here. I have 33 stitches in my hand
Uh-huh.
because I made a chlorine bomb as a kid, and I
Oh no.
held it a little too long, and it split open my hand, and I could see
Whoa.
my. So.
Yeah.
So,
I did not do that
I'm
as
just
a
saying, we have a
little
lot in
girl.
common. This could be dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
There's something wrong with dudes. There's something wrong.
Explosions, right? Like,
Yeah.
here and there, but I was a little scared. I was like, ooh, okay, that's enough for today. A little fire.
Yeah.
But these boys are like,
Yeah.
oh, bigger
No.
explosion, bigger.
This is why there was more lashes in the olden days to get people to. But it's like my kids, you were talking about like the BB guns. I bought my sons Red Ryder BB guns as their first guns, and I went through the whole thing. I was like, okay, you don't shoot these at each other. You don't do this. You don't point it. The whole thing, and they're like, okay, yes. And then they go outside and they immediately start shooting each other. They shot out a window. If you ever look at my channel, where I do gun stuff, there's an ambulance on my range, and one of the windows is shot out. Well, that was one of my kids. They shot out the windows of the back door, and every single time they would get in trouble. They would go on punishment. They got lectured. They got those BB guns taken away from them.
Oh my goodness.
And then when we felt that they were sorry about it or whatever, they would eventually, and they still have those BB guns, and then eventually we moved them on to 22s, and we took them to classes and training and all that, and my kids have shot machine guns, and I'm an FFL, and so they grew up basically in the last 10 years of me doing this. I've had lots of guns around, and my kids, they're fine and they're okay with it. So I think, so you just have to go through this. Dudes learn hard.
that's true.
Maybe they learn from experience, trial and error, you could say, explosions.
Oh
Sometimes-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that. You need to almost shoot your eye out, or they would shoot each other, and then they would try not to tell us, but we would see like a welt somewhere, like, oh, okay, so you shot your brother, right? That's what happened here.
Would you say they're very safe now? Like they've been
Oh, yeah.
trained these
That's
decades.
good. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very safe. They're very interested in guns. They use a lot of that stuff in the video games. They're always bragging to their friends that, like, they've shot full auto, and there's a lot of
They've
guns
shot
and
the
stuff.
guns that they're playing with.
Like,
They
I've
get-
shot all these guns. This
most
is-
kids are like, ha ha ha, I have a PS90 in a game. In Call
Yeah.
of Duty.
Yeah. A while back, I did a video with a rock veteran. I mean, he's a pretty big channel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we know him.
Nice.
And we
Oh,
were
okay.
talking about, it's a video where we talked about video game guns, and in that video, you'll see me and him, and we said we went to our consultants. My consultants were my two sons.
Wow.
So when
That's
that came out, I showed it to them, and they were like, come on, bro. Yeah. My sons I don't know, you guys don't, do you have kids? You don't have any kids yet.
Not yet.
No,
It's in the
but
works.
yeah, we're
Coming up.
near the
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So they teach you some of the new phrase. Come on, bro. Like, these new
Oh, yeah,
phrases.
they say that to me all the time. My sons, they go, brah, come on, brah.
You
yeah.
say it like you're natural, but it must be because you've heard it a lot.
Oh, I make fun of them all the time. I raise my kids by making fun of them, I believe that that's a parent's job. You make fun of your kids so they know that someone who loves them makes fun of them, and when they go someplace and other people make fun of them, they're like, okay, you're not hurting my feelings. My dad says all that stuff, and he loves me. So
second person to say that to us. Actually,
Say
you're
that again.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
You go first.
I was just saying you're the second person to say that to us. Some other person that interviewed us said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, making your kids.
Yeah, I
loving.
think it's a good thing to do. Yeah, it came from love, it came from love. I mean, what can I make fun of my kids that I didn't, or my wife didn't genetically add to the mix, you know what I mean? So, yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things. We're going to take a quick break right here. We're going to come back and we're going to wrap up.
We wouldn't be able to keep the Who Moved My Freedom podcast going without the support of manufacturers like Safety Harbor Firearms. SHF is a quintessential family-owned small business, totally representative of the American dream. Safety Harbor Firearms is a Florida-based manufacturer of the compact entry stock and the SHTF 50 upper for an AR-15 lower. Also, SHF happily delivers on your Sten gun parts needs. So don't forget to check out stenparts.com and safetyharborfirearms.com.
Yeah, I see that 42 Chilled here says that Hank got spanked. Let me explain. Like, my mom's, she's not here anymore, but my mom's Indian, right? So she was like, if you saw her, she just looked like this sweet Indian lady, No, my mom didn't give you spankings. She beat your ass. Yeah, and
Wow.
she was a teacher. She would, anything that was at hand, you are getting hit with that thing. A rolling pin, a spatula, a frying pan.
Sounds really
That sounds
painful.
painful. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom's going. She's going all in. She was a school teacher, and I would meet kids that she taught when in Guyana. She was a school teacher, and I would meet people that she taught in school, and they would say, "Man, your mom gave me so many lashes." It was just like, your mom she would just go, that's the first punishment. And I would go, oh, that's good, because I always thought I was the only one.
Oh God!
Makes me wonder what
They're
her
like telling you
childhood
this
was like.
horrible story, and you're like, okay, well, good.
No,
That
listen,
was-
I never did that with my kids. I would sometimes give my kids some, a couple spanks on the butt or whatever. But I find my kids didn't really. I think that was just my mother's, a lot of old school people. That was just kind of like their language, and that's how she was raised. And because I was raised that way, I didn't find it was necessary for me to raise my sons like that. I taught them the difference between what was right or wrong. I talked to them. If it really came down to it, I would do that. But I just never found it necessary to do that to my kids. And what I would do that hurt them more than anything was take away stuff from them. If they really did bad stuff, I was like, oh, that Game Boy thing you like? No, that's gone.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just wasn't necessary for me to do, but it's not, I don't, first of all, I don't think you should abuse your children, but there's also at a certain age with your kids where they don't necessarily understand where you're saying. I get why you might want to spank them on the butt or something like that so they can realize hey, this is not a good thing. But if you're a good parent, you should be able to explain things to your kids. And I can tell you right now, my boys, a lot of stuff that happens, they'll go to Lola, before me, because they are afraid to get a lecture from me.
the painful lectures.
Yeah, they know that lecture is going to be hours.
Father,
Yeah, and it's going to be psychological torture.
oh no.
It's going to be a lot of guilt. I'm going to bring up things from the past. It's so they're like, okay. We'll work all of this out with Mom. We're not going to
They learned.
we're not going to Dad on it. So and I think if you're a good parent, you don't have to abuse your kids either. That's one of the things I think about. Huh?
We're big promoters of this thing called peaceful parenting. It ties in with our unschooling, other stuff promotion. There's a good book on this called Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids by Dr. Laura Markham, and it's a really great one to check out online. We recommend it a lot, and it's a lot of tips and tricks I think that are very valuable for parents and things we've seen. We have lots of friends who are also peaceful parents, people who implement this that we've seen, and it's just that mindset shift of just thinking of your toolbox and what it is that you use to have consequences and to educate and it's like thinking of the ways that you can do it without the physical violence stuff. And as you said, with the Game Boy thing, removing consequences, that's just one of those great tools of thinking about consequences without escalating harm. So it's great to hear that you passed along some peaceful parenting tactics and moving away from the lashes growing up.
Right. Well, I think it's like you were saying about education and my mom being a teacher in a third world country. I mean, it is like prison. And I, as a kid, I remember having that feeling with, like, I never understood what a mother was for a long time, because I remember, like, I more thought of my mother as like a warden, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Because that's pretty much how she treated me, like I was some kind of prisoner or something like that. And then it took me seeing another mother interacting with her kid, and I was like, oh, this woman is like actually my mother. That's that's when I put those things together. And a lot of stuff like that, I said, I don't want to do that. So I grew up like that. Like, I grew up with my dad drinking and smoking and taking drugs and womanizing and all that kind of stuff. And those are things, and I saw how that hurt my mom and maybe made her do some of the things that she did, because she couldn't punish my dad, so she would punish me, And I told myself, hey, I want to be better. My both of my parents always told me that my job is to be, like they said, your job is to be better than us. If you think you're better than us, then be better than us. And I tell my kids that all the time, like, hey, if you think you can do this better than me, then that's your mission. Go out there and do it better than me. So it's not an easy thing. I think in lots of ways we've evolved. I think there's lots of folks out there who understand that, like, there is this line that you can cross and go way across it and basically become a bully to your child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And be very punitive, like you said, and controlling. I mean,
and it's incredibly destructive. That's where a lot of bullies come from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's really the origins of people accepting the state. Like, it started with kings and that sort of rulers, right? People just accepting, like, okay, the most powerful, whoever has the most power should be the one in charge, and it's okay because we should listen to them or else we're gonna die, like, shush, like that whole kind of culture of like controlling people and stuff like that has been around for hundreds of thousands of years of human history. So I think we kind of touched on that earlier, of just how I think right now we live in this time of some of the best ethical evolutions of humanity. So for us as libertarians and voluntarists or anarchists, like, we're really just trying to evolve to the next step of ethical evolution, which is, trying to get even more principled and really universalize all those values we talked about, like individual consent, property rights, respect of your body, those things, freedom of speech, what the Second Amendment is about, which is the right to protect yourself, your life, however you see fit. What we're trying to do is make it so that those principles apply to all human interactions, not just those who are outside the state, the so-called civilians. We're trying to demystify and dismantle that false dichotomy between the state and civilians, military versus civilian grade, like my bullpup, my FN PS90, which it's not a nice P90,
It should be
safe and civilian grady.
Absolutely. We're at a crossroads, and I think that what you guys represent to me, I'm really impressed. I don't think we ever actually, this is our first time for anyone. This is why I do this podcast, what's happening right now. This is my first conversation with these guys, and I really didn't know what to expect, but I'm
in the making. Yes.
Yeah, I'm encouraged, because I think you guys, we're at a crossroads, and you guys are the future. You're a young couple, and I think that, I hope the world gets better and goes down the path that you guys are going down, versus the one that it seems like overwhelmingly folks want to go down out there, and if I could do some stuff to help you guys get the message out there other than this, I would absolutely love to do that, and maybe even have you guys back on here. We've got to wrap it up, because we're you remember you were like 2 hours. Oh no, 2 hours, we've already burned through that. we're
Ain't nothing but a peanut.
Yeah. Yeah. So Yeah, so here's what I'm gonna do. We're not having any shows, any more shows for this week. We'll be back next week. But what I'm gonna do here is let these guys tell you how you all can communicate with them, support them, find out more about them, and all that. I'm gonna run in the end, and we're gonna come back, and these guys are gonna give us some words of wisdom, as you all know. So let's start with that. How can the folks out there communicate with you guys, support you, etc.?
Cool. So for me, you can look me up. My website has all the links to all the stuff that we're on and social media sites. So you can go to thepholosopher.com. Just one word together, the Pholosopher with the O, PHO. And yeah, there you can find links to my Twitter. I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook, Minds, and Twitter and YouTube and Odyssey.
Yeah. And there's lots of crossover there for The Philosopher. My website, one of the main ones I use is volcomic.com. That's my comic book series, VOLCOMIC. So V as in victory, VOLCOMIC, volcomic.com. There's a lot of links to different pages and things I do like that out there. But if you just put in, Jack Lloyd with Voluntarius or something like that, it's going to come up. So, we're everywhere. We have YouTubes, as he said, Minds, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. So chances are, whatever social media you might be on, we're on it in some capacity. So, check out our websites and then go from there. You'll probably find, whatever it is that.
Yeah, music videos. Check out our music videos that we've done.
There's lots of good stuff. I think you guys will like it. I see 42 Chilled says, Jack and Pho, great show. And also he says, Happy Father's Day to all the father figures out there as well. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
That's it, Hank.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And Lola says, thank you, Pho and Jack. Great convo out there. Yeah, I thought this was awesome. So hopefully I can do some more stuff to help the 2A community here find out more about you guys, especially since you're Floridians. Those of us who we have these things in common, we all need to get together here and work towards the change that we're asking for here, right? So I'll be happy to do that. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run in the end. We're going to come back, and you guys are going to drop words of wisdom, so you got a couple of seconds to think about it. I'm going to run this in right now. All right, guys, it was great hanging out with everyone here. As I always tell you, we're going to rip the audio out of this, throw it up on iTunes. It's going to be on Podbean, Audible, all the places that you can get audio podcasts from, including HankStrange.com. If you go there, you'll be able to get this podcast directly. We're also members of the Firearms Radio Network, so shout out to everyone who's coming in through that. And big thanks to Jack and Pho of the Philosophers, even though it's PHO, on YouTube. Go look it up. Please do support these guys. I think they have lots of things that you folks will find in common, and they have lots of really good ideas. We should always be open to good ideas. Okay, words of wisdom, guys.
Cool. Well, I'm a guy. I'm just kidding. I'm a guy. Dude.
Yeah.
So words of wisdom, I would say, probably first thing is, know yourself, really get connected with yourself and understand, how do you think internally about yourself? Do you have a very shaming voice in your head? Okay, do you regularly call yourself a piece of crap or something, or stupid, or labels? And really just start that self-work there of, seeing if you have any sort of violent tendencies in terms of thinking in your own mind. Because chances are, if you do, that's likely how, you handle relationships in the real world. So, my 2 cents is I think it's just the utmost importance in our lives. I personally value this, is really understand yourself, why you are the way that you are, and understand your childhood experiences and really how they formed and shaped your beliefs and views today. Once you have that, I think the next step is, then just specializing and seeing how you can change the world for the better. But you can't do that until you really know yourself. So anyway, that's me. Go ahead, Jack.
So my words of wisdom would be that for everybody here, if you already get the idea that when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms, right, you understand that it doesn't matter what the gun grabbers say. If they say, oh, well, there's this risk of accidents and mass shootings, and oh, if you have a gun, you're just going to rampage, right? You understand it's nonsense, and that your gun, you are responsible for. It's not hurting anybody. You should have the right to keep it and to use it in defense of yourself. I would just encourage everybody here to apply that same thing to the rest of your property rights, right? That should be the standard for everything. Our property rights are not just limited to guns. It involves our homes, our food, your TV, your car, whatever it is. Consider how, if you're not hurting anybody with your stuff physically, you're not destroying somebody else's stuff or defrauding someone, how that should be free to use as you please, in the same way that you have your sacred, enshrined Second Amendment rights. Because the more the government can look for ways to get to your Second Amendment rights through other avenues, they're going to do it. And as you know, they've already done it in many different ways, whether it's through the war on drugs or the war on terror or whatever it is. They look for ways to try to upend your right to keep and bear arms. And so the more you have the rest of your property rights secured, the more secure your right to bear arms is going to be. So I just really want everyone to really think in those terms, that your right to property includes and enshrines the right to keep and bear arms. So
absolutely. Well said. Very good stuff from you guys. I think everyone out there appreciates that. What's that, Pho? Go ahead.
Oh, I said I love how I'm like so personal here, but
no, that was awesome.
once you figure your personal stuff out, there you go. You can help change the world, make it more consistent.
Absolutely. Meld those two together. It starts with you, and then and the rights that you have extend to other things, as Pho and Jack said. Great show. We're going to see you guys next week. You guys stay right there. I'm going to press all the buttons to end this right now. We'll see you guys. Stay safe out there. Enjoy. Have a great Father's Day.